I don't know how long ago, but it was great. But you'll have a good blast.
Hopefully, yeah.
Michaela's going tonight.
Is she?
She is.
Okay, right.
She says she doesn't really want to go. She's just going because Lee wants to go.
Yeah, but that's nonsense.
Yeah. Oh,
What
she's
are you-
doing the news
Is
next.
that true, Michaela?
Kinda.
Don't
She's
believe
more
her.
of a take that kind of a girl.
Oh, she's a Dermot Kennedy.
Yeah,
out.
Dermot Kennedy all the way.
Oh, yeah.
If you can get to see him, of course.
Yeah,
Give me
Do you want to tell that story, Michaela?
I've already done it.
She's done to New York to see Dermot Kennedy, and he wasn't. But enough
All right,
of that.
good luck, Lee. Have a good weekend.
Have a good show. Good
All
luck.
right, take care of yourself. All right, it is now the 9 till noon show. And we have our Friday panel assembled. They're going to be chatting to us very shortly. But at 9 o'clock, let's get a news update. And we say good morning to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The tricolour over government buildings in Dublin is flying at half-mast this morning as a mark of respect following the death of Queen Elizabeth. A book of condolences will be opened at the British Embassy in Ballsbridge so people can pay their respects. The 96-year-old monarch died yesterday at Balmoral. The new King Charles III will travel to London later and is due to hold his first audience with British Prime Minister Liz Truss. Taoiseach Micheál Martin says the Queen's visit to Ireland in 2011 was a turning point in Anglo-Irish relations.
By making that visit and by the speeches that were made, visiting the Garden of Remembrance, the different locations that Queen Elizabeth II visited, all of that, I think, cemented the peace and more or less signalled to the British people and to the Irish people that we're now entering a different phase, a more mature phase in our relationship.
There's renewed calls for the planning service to be reinstated at Carndonagh Public Services Centre. The planning section was centralised to Lifford in recent years. However, the Inishowen Municipal District continually receives the highest number of planning applications in Donegal, something local councillor Martin Farm believes warrants a full-time planning service to be based in the peninsula. He says with the MICA redress scheme coming down the line, assistance being available locally for affected homeowners is imperative.
We've got a serious problem here in Inishowen with MICA, and obviously there's going to be more and more planning applications coming in, and I feel that it would be vitally important that the planning section, in my opinion, should be reinstated. Instead of services being taken out, we should be adding to them.
A Donegal County councillor believes the local authority should be working with residents and farmers to ensure waterways are clear. It comes after much damage was caused in parts of the county by flash flooding last weekend. Councillor Albert Doherty says everyone has a role to play to help mitigate against flooding.
We've had some excessive quantities of rain where we had untold damage done to our road infrastructure. The amount of debris that was washed down and the amount of damage, danger and interruption of cattle and farming for the local people, it means we all have a role to play from the river right up to its source.
Weather now rather cloudy and damp this morning with patchy rain and drizzle clearing. Highest temperatures today of 18 to 20 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
At Lloyd's Pharmacy this winter, we know how to help give your family big protection against the cold and flu and make big savings with our amazing buy one get one half price offer on selected vitamins and supplements. Shop and save online, in store or using our app. Lloyd's Pharmacy. Say hello to the people that know. Terms and conditions apply.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127. The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It has just turned 4 minutes past 9 on this Friday, the 9th of September 2022. And you're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show for another Friday. Lots coming up in the programme. A little later on, we will have Seamus Gunn in answering your legal questions after 10 o'clock. So if you have any questions for Seamus, get in touch right now, 086 60 25,000 or call 07491 25,000. Those are the same numbers and contacts if you want to get involved in the conversation we'll be having with our Friday panel over the next hour. And a little later on, between 11 and 12, Michael and Fanula will be in studio with us as well, of course. So let's say hello to that panel that I mentioned. We'll say good morning first to Katie Tyrrell McCafferty, community campaigner. Good morning, Katie. How are you keeping?
Good morning, Greg.
It's great to have you with us. Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, Fine Gael councillor, and also a member of the Letterkenny Municipal District. Good morning to you, Jimmy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Greg, and good morning.
And last but not least, Pat McCart, former editor of the Derry Journal and a podcaster. Good morning, Pat. Good to have you on the show again. Thanks for joining us. Okay, we've a lot to get through in this hour, and we'll be talking later on in the hour and on the programme to some other guests as well, as it relates to the news that's dominating every single newspaper, British or Irish, and many internationals. Also, newspapers I mentioned, of course, but TV and radio. British TV is sort of the terrestrial channels. It's just the one topic, and that is the passing of Britain's Queen Elizabeth II, who died yesterday at the age of 66. Katie, I'll start with you, as I introduced you first. A huge outpouring of grief and loss and what have you across Britain and elsewhere, it seems, this morning and all of yesterday, and will be for the foreseeable future, it seems.
Yeah, I obviously, with the accent, you can tell. It was a very strange day yesterday. I was already mourning the loss of a family member, and then the Queen dying, and it affected me in a way I didn't expect, in the sense that it was definitely an end of an era. For most of us in Britain, it's all we've ever known is Queen Elizabeth II. I'm not a monarchist, a royalist by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I'm a Republican at heart, but I think we all know that she was a very reluctant queen, and her father was actually a very reluctant king, and she felt that it was her sense of duty to step up to the plate. And for that, I think a lot of people admire her. She was 96 and still working. I think it was an awful shame that she had to be dragged out of her sickbed to perform her last duty, really. I mean, she did look quite frail the other day. I can understand the outpouring of grief. I don't think you necessarily have to be a monarchist to just respect the woman for the job that she performed.
Yeah, so when the British press talk of, you know, people feel like they've lost a member of the family, that she was the steady voice, and I've heard one commentator say history stopped yesterday. Is that accurate, do you think, as to the general sense of what the British public is feeling?
Yeah, I think because she was a stable figure, she didn't really have a say in anything. It's more of a figurehead, we know that. But I think if you even look during the COVID crisis, she showed more leadership than the Prime Minister and his ministers, actually. You know, when she buried Prince Philip, she showed more of a steady hand, really. And I think, and she has kept her hands out of the politics side of it, which whether King Charles III will be able to do that will be. But
sometimes keeping your hands out of the side of the politics is going with whatever the government of the day says. You know what I mean? For example, obviously, in terms of, you know, being fully behind Brexit, or not fully behind, but, you know, announcing it in the way you do, I'm not sure that means that you're keeping out of politics as such, if you just go with whatever the government of the time, sort of the direction of traffic they're going in. But I take the point that you're making. I'm not disputing it as such, but you know, maybe sometimes people might look to someone in that position and seek a little bit of intervention on different political matters.
I think a lot of people in Ireland feel the same way about Michael D. Higgins. You know what I mean? In the sense that... Well,
not politicians in the media. They don't like him saying anything. But I take I take your point.
But yeah, I can understand the outpouring of grief in the UK. As I say, I'm not a monarchist. I'm a Republican at heart, but I do understand. I do understand it, and at the end of the day, she's a mother, she's a grandmother, and she's a great-grandmother, and I would feel sorry for anyone losing a family member like that.
Pat, and I said she was 66, of course. She was, of course, 96. Pat McCart, your reflections?
the thing is, Greg, she came to power the year I was born, so
Really?
that's a long time ago. And as Katie said there, she's the constant, I'd say, for a lot of British people. Now, the thing I thought about her, the royalty, they have this thing, probably soft power. They're not directly involved in the political fray, but the Queen could set a tone, and she could talk to prime ministers and put ideas into their head. And her, like, give you an example of what I'm talking about, Greg. She came over to Ireland, and she didn't actually say anything, but the one thing she said was, "I wish things had been done differently or not at all." And with that one sentence, I think she sort of absolutely improved almost 100% the relationship and the way Britain was viewed by a lot of people on the island of Ireland. And I think her visit, if you noticed on 2011, the first day she was actually quite nervous and very restrained. By the third day, you could see she had totally relaxed. And I think her visit to Ireland was an outstanding success. So, in the sense that she sort of made amends, or didn't quite apologise, but basically said, "Look, I wish things had been done different." So I think she had a big role. And sort of mending fences between Ireland and Britain, and that's considerable power when you think about it.
Do you think some of us who might take a more casual approach to sort of the politics of things and the diplomacy element of things perhaps don't realise fully the significance of that 2011 visit, which of course Mary Lou McDonald and Michelle O'Neill and many others have been very quick to reference that was significant in the wider scale of things, or the wider scheme of things?
Well, Sinn Féin misjudged it the first time. They didn't show up in 2011, but Martin McGuinness shortly afterwards met the Queen, and like that was seriously significant. So I think these things. Put it like this, Greg. I think the Queen has done probably more for British-Irish relationships and a lot of the prime ministers. And I don't know if we're getting around to any other subject, but considering the last prime minister was a complete disaster, and this one could be another one.
We're not going to stay too long on this because we'll be discussing it later as well. Jimmy Kavanagh, what's your views?
Yeah, very, very similar sentiments to what's already been expressed by Kitty and Pat, Greg. I mean, she was a remarkable woman. 70 years of service in a job like that is incredible. And what Pat has referenced about the 2011 visit to Ireland, that's what really stands out in my mind. And I think it did have a very huge impact. He referenced the speech there as well, and those few words, a very, very well crafted speech. But I think the Garden of Remembrance and the laying of the wreath too, with the 1916 leaders, was a very, very poignant and very, very important moment. Mm-hmm. And those things were, and also the visit to Croke Park, they were so symbolic and so powerfully symbolic. And so it was a very, very healing thing, I think, that was in 2011. And she deserves great credit for that. And it's important, too, I think, that people know that she initiated that big time, that she didn't, other people were involved, obviously, but she was very, very keen to do it. And the Croke Park visit was actually initiated on the Queen's side, which I thought was very, very important. But, she had that very, very strong sense of duty. She has been an incredible servant to the British people, regardless of what you think of monarchies or anything else.
Katie, sorry, Jimmy, I thought you were finished there. Katie, is this and the conversation? Maybe it's not to be had now in Britain, but is this sort of maybe the beginning of the end of the monarchy? It's been through many stages. The 60s and 70s were a low point, bounced back a bit. Obviously, the death of Princess Diana, it bounced back a bit. But we have this awful controversy, really, of her son having accusations made against him, settling, being protected. We had recent visits from members of the British royal family to Commonwealth countries where it seemed completely and utterly outdated. I just wonder how many were holding the fire until Queen Elizabeth had passed away before maybe talking about the future of the monarchy as it is.
It will certainly, I think, be a very paring down of the royal family. I think the civil list will get very, very small.
Because even the optics of it, there is a massive cost of living crisis. In about 10 or 11 days, all the pomp and ceremony and all of the carriages and the gold and the crowns is going to be whipped out. And I'm just thinking, if I were a British person wondering how I'm going to pay my electricity and gas bills, and I'm looking at all of this thinking, really? Is this 2023? I just think a penny might drop around about then.
Yeah, and I don't think... There's two things. I think that Charles is not going to be a popular king. So I really don't think he's going to be popular. And I do think that a lot of people felt very much loyalty to Elizabeth, but not the royal family, in a sense of a word. Yes, it could be. We could see a very, very pared down royal family. I don't think we're going to go to a republic yet. I think it could be very similar to the way the Dutch throne happens. You know, the king and queen in the Netherlands have a very, very pared back role. And I think, is it Sweden as well, with those European royals. So I think it will be very much a paring back. And as I say, I think a lot of people felt a sense of loyalty to Queen Elizabeth, but will not to the rest of them.
Yeah, and same question to you, Pat, but with an extra element to this, in that, you know, it was hard to avoid the coverage yesterday. I didn't see anyone, as far as I could determine, under the age of 50 actually making any comment or being a contributor through any of the coverage that I was flicking in and out of. And I wonder, is that maybe also a little bit telling?
Yeah, I think your point, you know, if you're sitting now and facing into massive bills, and you're going to see the gold coach, and you're going to see there. I think there's one diamond. It's the biggest diamond in the world, and it's worth 450 million. Yeah,
taken without permission from India.
From South Africa, wasn't it?
South Africa, I beg your pardon. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and you sort of go so. And I think Katie's right to a large degree. Charles and that Camilla saga. Diana was the beloved princess, and you know, he's blotted his copybook. And Andrew has really messed up. And there was the Queen's children. There was a certain arrogance. Andrew was pretty widely disliked beforehand for his arrogance and his sort of dismissal of people. So I think Katie's got a point. Charles will have to walk a very, very fine line in the years ahead. By the way, apparently he's the oldest ever person to ascend the throne at 73 years of age. So
I just wonder how that line he walks, how does he make himself relevant? What do you do? Do you step back? Do you reform without being made reform? I just don't. I just wonder. It's going to be a very tricky path.
He's had a habit in the past of saying things that are regarded as political, and apparently the sort of rule is the royal family should be above politics. I fail to see how Charles will keep his mouth shut.
Jimmy, do you see much of the future for a royal family, at least in its form, for Britain?
Greg, what I would say is I certainly can't see anybody of the same caliber in line that will have the same impact. So yeah, I think it's certainly going to be a tricky time for them. But you know, on the economics of it, I think, you know, what you're saying about all the pomp and that we'll see now over the next number of days and the expense of all that, that's one side of it. But the royal family also generate an awful lot of income with their royal weddings and so on. You know, so it's a two-sided coin.
I'm not sure about that though, Jimmy. I think that's spin. I think that's spin.
Know.
And I also think a lot of
I don't know either, Greg, but there is two sides to that, you know. So I don't know. There's certainly nobody of her caliber waiting there in line to get. You know, she was very. I think she was a very pragmatic person. I don't think any of the rest of them coming along are certainly not as cute as her.
All right, okay. We shall see. That is the voice there of Jimmy Kavanagh. You're also listening to Katie Tyrrell McCafferty and Pat McCart. By the way, of course, you know, you can watch the programme right now on our website, highlandradio.com, or if you are on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, or across our Facebook pages, and on Highland Radio's verified Twitter account. Back with more, and more from our guests and your comments after these.
Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
Hello, how can I help you?
I'm looking to claim on my insurance policy.
Okay, and what type of chip do you need to claim for?
It's not a chip. I was in a minor accident.
And was your windscreen chipped in this accident?
No, it's just my backlight and the bumper.
So your windscreen is not chipped?
No.
Unfortunately, our policies only cover chips.
Do you get the feeling that you're not getting the right cover? Well, at Local Insurance, we are Irish owned and understand your needs. Call us today for a bespoke quote on 0818 894 444. Local Insurance, we'll get you sorted. The Local Insurance Network, DAC Trading's Local Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Local Insurance is a tied insurance intermediary of Acorn Brokerage Limited. Acorn Brokerage Limited, trading as Acorn Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure, your football specialist. Multi-buy discounts on footballs from Mitre, Adidas and O'Neill's. Training equipment, combs, bibs, water bottle sets. View our complete range on bmcsports.ie. Have your team look the part with some Adidas leisure wear. New Entrada 22 quarter zips with matching bottoms. Training packs available for all ages. Look the part, play the part. In-store, online, mobile. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Is your Skoda a little older? Pre-loved, perhaps? What adventures, I wonder, did it have in the past? Another family, another life, bright city lights, or a quiet country existence seeing Ireland's best sights? We don't really need your car's story. With a Skoda service, you get a complete vehicle health check, genuine Skoda parts, and free roadside assistance for 12 months.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clara Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 97 21 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
At Lloyd's Pharmacy this winter, we know how to help give your family big protection against the cold and flu and make big savings with our amazing buy one get one half price offer on selected vitamins and supplements. Shop and save online, in store or using our app. Lloyd's Pharmacy. Say hello to the people that know. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Ben and I'm planning on studying construction management in ATU Donegal this September.
I'm Shannon and I studied business.
If you want to follow in our footsteps, join us on Friday 9th of September, 11 to 4 for our information day. Talk to our academic and support staff on how you can study with us in ATU Donegal this September.
It's not too late to choose ATU Donegal. The future is here. For more information, visit lyit.ie.
Now, many students and their parents have been left in an awful situation because of what seems to be a complete mess up of the school. Well, not a complete mess up, that's not fair. A significant mess up of the school transport scheme. Of course, Minister Norma Foley, she announced free school transport for students, which meant that it could save families €500-600. But what's happened is the system and the service is oversubscribed. Those who are eligible for a seat under the old criteria still waiting on buses to be provided to allow extra capacity. Students who for many years travelled to school with concessionary tickets, i.e. they got a seat if there were seats available after those who were eligible got their seats. They seem to be the ones that are really missing out. Now, Education Minister Norma Foley, she's been invited back again in front of the Dáil Education Committee after she declined an initial invitation to address the school transport chaos. I mean, firstly, the Minister for Education refusing Jimmy Kavanagh an invite to discuss this issue in front of an Oireachtas committee is somewhat unusual, but I'm sure you're being contacted by a lot of parents. It is a mess for quite a few people out there today.
Craig, it's an absolute mess, and there's nothing that I've got more phone calls about than this particular issue. Listen, there's 45,000 additional applications as a result of this decision. Surely somebody somewhere could have predicted what was going to happen here. And if you're going to attract that number of additional applications, you've got to have the resources in place to deal with it, and we don't have. It's as simple as that. If I can give you an example, Greg, without going into too much detail, but I had a lady this week. She's not from Donegal. She's from another part of Ireland, but she's living here now a long number of years, and her kids have been in the system a long number of years. She's a widow, and she's the breadwinner in the family, okay? And like she now has been told she can't get a private bus either because there's none that go the route that she needs. So she's absolutely stuck, and she's basically saying to me that to get her kids to school and get them home, she's either going to have to use taxis or she's going to have to give up her work because she doesn't have the support system that maybe a lot of us might have with family and so on.
But even if she had the option of a private bus, and we've been speaking to parents affected by this, they go from, firstly, last year, €100, right, if they had to pay in some cases, to paying €1,100. So this decision by Norma Foley is costing hard-pressed families, and we're all hard-pressed at the moment, an extra €1,000, yet it's loaded as a free transport system. But what can you do? I mean, you're a member of the government, right? So you can't sort of ride two horses here. What can you do? What can Joe McHugh do? What can Charlie McConnell do to get these children bus places? Because we, outside of government, can see what's wrong and can criticise the government. You're inside it, so we want to see action from you, not sympathy.
Right. No, well, Greg, that's fine, Greg. But let's face it. Like, I'm not the Minister for Transport, or councillors are pretty limited in what we can do. We can pass it up the line, and that's what we're doing. I've written to several different people in the party this week about this, and I've called it out the same way that I've called it out to you, and I've told them that I'm completely unhappy about it, and I've told them that it's an absolute mess. Now, I can't, go to Bus Éireann and say, listen, put this woman's kids on a bus. I can't do that. I can certainly ring them and make representations, and I've done all that. But I'm only giving you one example. I have several, Greg. And there's also, you mentioned the cost, which is obviously the main thing, but also people have been forced onto private buses, and it's very stressful for kids that suddenly they're not on the same bus as their friends that they have been for the first couple of years, and they're starting off school in a different bus, and it's a change for them. There's all these things, and plus the notice that people were given. This was landed on people in many cases in the last week.
Also, not to mention, we are in an energy crisis, and this is forcing more cars onto the road. I mean, you couldn't make it up, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's all it just was not thought through. Greg, is all I can say about it.
What do you think about the minister's refusal to be accountable to speak to the Oireachtas committee?
No, what I think is, she seems to have gone to ground. I think that's wrong. Yeah, I mean, this stage, this is so urgent and so important. But Craig, I am very limited in what I can do. Let's be honest.
Understood. Okay.
I'm a county councillor, but I can push it up the line. I've done that. I've spoken with the department. I've sent people to Joe on that as well. But it's just I definitely wouldn't come in here and try and defend this in any way, because it's indefensible.
Katie Tyrrell McCafferty, what's your view?
Norma doing what Norma does and disappears and makes announcements before talking to the the key holders, as she did during the COVID crisis.
Well, can I say, I thought she was actually quite out there on COVID, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm misreading it. I thought she was pretty vocal in around about that time. I don't recall her being quite as muted as she is now. Maybe I'm...
If you remember, she made announcements before talking to the stakeholders.
Oh, no, yes, certainly. She has a habit of that. Sorry, yes, I understand what you're saying.
And she did that, and she's done that again. And she's put the cart before the horse. You need to make sure that they're literally the buses and the bus drivers to do this. Don't get me wrong. I think that that school transport should be free. I think it's far more environmentally friendly. And as you've said, we're in an energy crisis. To alleviate the pressure, some people may have been very grateful about a bus because of the literal diesel money it was going to cost them to take their children.
See, what I don't understand, Katie, I don't understand now. Bus Éireann are going, oh, well, we can't do this and we can't do that, and we have to stick to the criteria, and the criteria means that hundreds of concessionary ticket holders are missing out. Yet, it's not that long ago that buses were falling from the sky. New routes were being created, quite rightly so, to accommodate different communities moving into different areas. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, we have to tighten the strings. We have to follow the rules. We have to use the same criteria. It's really very, very unfair that people are being treated differently in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is one of the things they could have done is maybe offered the transport grant to various people. That may have taken off the pressure. What I have to say, though, Greg, is I'm really pleased that this is being highlighted. But can I just say, special needs parents have been going through this for years.
I get that, yeah. I do understand
for
that.
years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's never been highlighted. And now it's affecting everyone. It is, and don't get me wrong.
But I have discussed that many times on this program. But I understand where you're coming from. I do understand it indeed.
And I'm glad it's being highlighted. I'm really glad, and I think in the short term, if one of the reasons that people may have felt under pressure is actually physically the diesel or the petrol they were putting in their car to take their kids. Offer those people, if you can take your kids to school, maybe offer them the transport grant. But why not offer free training for people to become bus drivers if they're on the dole queue? I mean, if they're saying it's a shortage of bus drivers and buses, think about things.
Though? I mean, like any private bus operators out there, if you got the call from Bus Éireann, a lot of bus companies would tender for many routes, and they might get one or two routes, right? But you can't tender for a route unless you have a bus and a driver, right? So, I mean, is there any private bus companies out there that can just put paid to this claim that it's because there aren't buses or bus drivers? Are you there? Are you ready to go if you got the call from Bus Éireann and the money was right? 086 60 25,000. There's two things going on here for me, Pat. Firstly, obviously, it's this that no one saw this coming, and it's the most obvious thing that the whole thing would be oversubscribed. I can't buy that. But also, secondly, the fact that the minister won't go into an Oireachtas committee and discuss this either is troublesome for me. What's your view, Pat?
Greg, I'm going to come at this slightly different. People keep wondering why Sinn Féin are going up in the polls all the time, and I don't think it's any particular love of Sinn Féin. I think it's one of the problems is that people have become very fed up with this government. Like housing, the queues for housing. Jimmy knows more about this than I do. There's about 3,000 or 4,000 people on a waiting list for housing in Donegal. Go right across the country. Health, there's 1 million people waiting hospital appointments right, left and centre. This mess up on the buses, I think any shown has been particularly badly affected. The Ukrainian people have come here and they're now having problems finding accommodation. What is it? Was there 150 people left on the streets overnight in Dublin?
Yeah.
Just one, and it's always the systems to blame. And here we're at a situation we have more civil servants than ever. We never seem to be able to predict what's coming down the line.
Let me make a prediction, Pat. I'm going to make a prediction now. I would not be surprised in the very near future if at least one major hotel is offered for Ukrainians to accommodate refugees over. I wouldn't be surprised if it's two, but I certainly really, really wouldn't be surprised if it's one very, very shortly. In other words, an awful lot of money, a multi-million euro contract is going to be given to one or two of these hotels very, very soon to fix the problems as it relates to housing refugees that you've just mentioned. And if it's good for business, if it's good for the local area, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when we start talking then about getting seats for children with concessionary tickets or other types of tickets, all of a sudden the rule book comes out. And it's block after block after block. Now, if you're an affected parent or guardian, you know what emotions that's going to evoke. You know how angry you are going to be, not only with the government, but also maybe with other groups of people that seemingly are getting different treatment. So I'm just trying to say the quiet part loud here and get the actual conversation out rather than people having it and us not having it here. And that's what's really, I think, getting at people, Pat, and annoying people, that a solution will be found to the problems we have in Donegal in terms of housing refugees. And yet we're going to have to campaign like nothing else just to get bus seats for kids that were told they were getting free bus seats.
Well, as Jimmy said, this was totally predictable, the bus thing. And I think it totally was. And like how you can mess these sort of things up. Like it was so obvious there was going to be a more demand than they can currently cater for. And you're dead right, Greg. What happens when people see somebody else getting something that they're not getting, that breeds resentment and that causes problems. That's always been the case. But what really sort of annoys me is these things are so predictable. But the get out clause for every minister and every civil servant was, it's the system. It was a systemic fault. That day, we should have more. I think it just annoys the hell out of people.
It shows in. I mean, the problem, Jimmy, is that it just seems to maybe either convince people of the government's incompetence or reinforces their view. Because we all knew this was going to happen, Jimmy. You know what I mean? And rather than sort of try and address it, we have ministers going into hiding. And as you as a, you're a local councillor and you represent people, and it doesn't matter what party you're a member of, but you are also a member of Fine Gael. And then you hear sort of, Sinn Féin promising the sun and the moon and the stars, and they're going up the polls, and your party's going down in the polls, and you must look on. I know primarily you're worried about, people and getting people to school, but you must look on and go, what's the leadership of my party and what's the leadership of this government doing? They're literally handing power over to the opposition.
Greg, go back to the school transport thing again. The system, I meant to make this point, the system isn't transparent either. There's things like if you pay and you pay in time, then the next line is if you pay but you pay late. How does anybody know who paid in time and who paid late? And that to me is those sort of things. That's so frustrating for parents. So I think that whole thing needs to be revamped and re-looked at. It's just unfair. But this is like a decision that was probably made thinking this will play out really well. And it was an awfully bad decision. I don't think that it's a reflection of everybody in government or everything in government. There's a lot of good things happen to government too.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're in power a certain length of time as well, you're going to get the whack for everything, and that seems to be happening now. And Sinn Féin are riding high in the polls, but the polls are the polls, and the election's a different thing. So. Let's see. I wouldn't, but this is a very, very, very poor decision.
Katie, the problem I think also maybe is that the majority of people out there, particularly in urban areas, they will have got their free transport and they'll be delighted because they're saving €500. A lot of students in rural areas also, and their parents are probably a wee bit tuned out of this conversation because it's not relevant to them. But there is quite a cohort, particularly in rural areas, and we are, they're going to be the minority in that situation. And maybe the minister and the government are aware of that the majority of people are going to be really quite happy with this, and the noisy country folk will quieten down in a while, and it'll all blow over.
Greg,
I often say that's the point.
If they simply would have said, we're giving free transport to everyone that had it last year, and everyone else can apply, and we'll see what we can do around those applications. Because I mean, if people didn't need free transport for years, why did they suddenly need it now? Where did this 45,000 people come from? So I think they should have done something simple like that. We'll give it to all the people that are in the system already, and then we'll look at all the other applications and see what we can do around that.
Yeah, Katie,
but
sorry, you were going to.
There's no management of it at all.
You were going to come in there, Katie.
Yeah, I actually think that you've got a really valid point there. It's the squeaky wheel gets the oil, or whatever the saying is, and in urban urban concentrations, then there are more people, but in fact it's probably the people in rural Ireland that need this more than anything else. And I understand what Jimmy's saying about why do all these people now need free transport. A lot of them actually do, because that 20-30 euro that your parents are putting in diesel in the car is really needed at the moment.
Maybe more people are working from home too, and they did the school runs on the way to work, and now the government's encouraged them to work remotely, and they are working remotely, and now, it's the children need buses. I mean, I don't think there's anything sinister going on here. It's just people's lives have changed, the country's changed, and 45,000 people out of a school population of over 1 million is nothing. It should have been
in
accounted
fairness,
for.
Greg, I'm probably in the reverse in that we had free transport because of the diagnosis that my son has. But for the last 2 years, I've taken him to school because if I can control infection sites because COVID is still about, then that's what I do because he's immunocompromised. Yes. So I've actually chosen to take my child to school. During COVID, I got paid to do that. Now I don't. So that's what I'm saying. If they offered transport grants, there might be quite a few people that might take it.
All right, Katie Tyrrell, thank you very much for that. Take Katie Tyrrell McCafferty back with more after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Fleet owners, Cargo Defenders is your one-stop supplier for all your vehicle technology, including GPS vehicle tracking, remote tachograph downloading solutions, dash cams or 4G multi-camera systems. For more information, call Cargo Defenders on 074 9710 110 or visit cargodefenders.ie.
With selected models readily available, it's time to treat yourself to a brand new car. Our Nissan lineup is unbeatable in their class. Call today or visit us in Letterkenny or Malin or visit imotors.ie.
If you've got great photos sitting on your phone or in the cloud, why not visit mcgee's.ie and see the range of creative options available. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same price as the standard 6x4s, with 100 prints for just €12. Or select from the great range of photo gifts like mouse and placemats, phone covers, jigsaws and clocks. Click and collect or have them delivered. See what you can do with your favourite photos online at mcgee's.ie.
The Homeland Garden event is on this weekend at your local Homeland Garden Centre. Save 20% on all shrubs, roses, perennials, plant feeds, solar lights and solar water features. Save 50% on all display barbecues and display garden furniture while stocks last from the 9th to the 11th of September only. Visit homeland.ie for opening hours.
We know it's only September, but here at House to Home, we're already thinking Christmas. If you need a new Irish-made suite of furniture in time for the festive season, call into our showroom in Bridgend, Donegal. Our suites of furniture are handmade here in Ireland, and they usually take 8 to 10 weeks from ordering. So if you're looking to cozy up on a new sofa and enjoy some Christmas movies, then call into House to Home in Bridgend, Donegal.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. Okay, Northern Ireland, under Liz Truss, can you see a pathway for Stormont being restored? Pat McCart.
Well, our track record so far hasn't been good, Greg. That protocol bill that went through Westminster there quite recently, her fingerprints are all over it. Apparently, as I was speaking to you earlier this week, apparently herself and Simon Coveney had a serious row. I think it was in Turin earlier this year. She seems to be beholden to this ERG group, this extreme right-wing anti-European group. So Greg, I don't see any great hope. And she has appointed two guys who are former chairpersons of the ERG group to the Northern Ireland office. The main guy, whose name escapes me right now, double-barrel guy, his track record hasn't been great either. So, I maybe sometimes these people are, the old one, they govern, are they sort of electioneer and prose and govern and poetry. Well, these guys, maybe now they're in office, they might have to be more pragmatic.
We were chatting to Senator Noel Blaney earlier the week, yesterday actually, and he was proposing that maybe she'll be keen to get this over the line, that it could be a win. She could an early win. It could maybe help with the relationships with the United States. I thought that was a little bit optimistic, though. A well-informed point of view, don't get me wrong. Do you think she has an interest in that? Is that one of her priorities? Could that be an early win for her?
Yeah, well, that'd be one thing. Greg, she has one hell of an entry. That she's only 2 days in the job in the Queen days. So there's a big thing that she's got to deal with. The last thing she needs is a trade war with Europe. And the third thing is, during his time in office, Boris Johnson only had one meeting with Joe Biden. Biden is very, very pro-Irish, and he made it clear on numerous occasions that he was not happy with what Boris was doing. So I would think Liz Truss might want a clean sheet. So that's the optimistic thing. But Greg, if you're asking me on her track record so far, I don't think so.
I just don't think she can sell backing down in any way, shape or form to the EU as a win. And I just don't see how she gets it over the line without that. Jimmy Kavanagh, quick view from you.
Great. It's very, very hard to know what to make of it. As Pat says, you wouldn't be, based on the personalities, you wouldn't be optimistic. And double-barreled guy is Harris is the second part of that, I think.
He's really made an early impact, hasn't he? I haven't a notion what his name is. I know he's a referee. That's about the height of it. I know he was. I know three other people ahead of him didn't want the job. Outside of that,
the one thing about Liz Truss is like the one thing that she seems to be consistently good at is changing her mind. I was just listening to her speech about the Queen last night. Back in the day, she was anti the monarchy. She was anti-Brexit. She's now one of those pro-Brexit people. And so, how do you predict what somebody like that's going to do? Exactly. I think what it's out of our control to an extent. But listen, we need a UK government that's actually serious about negotiating around the protocol and negotiating with Europe.
Okay.
And we haven't did that for a while. But Greg, listen, you wouldn't be confident, but the point I'd make is that we have to keep doing what we're doing.
Which is doing nothing.
No, we have to keep it ahead. I think Simon Coveney has been very strong and very good. And we've worked well with Europe in that, and we need to keep doing that. We can only control what we do ourselves. We can't control what we do.
Jimmy Kavanagh, listen, thanks for your time this morning. Always a pleasure to have you on the programme, Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh. Katie, what do you think? Are you in any way optimistic?
No.
And that's where we have to leave it. Unless there's anything else you have to add, Katie, because we're going to bring another couple of guests in. I would share your view. I'm not in any way optimistic at all.
I can't trust someone. I can't trust stuff that comes out of people's mouths. She was a Lib Dem, now she's a Tory. She was an anti-monarchist, now she was,
flip-flop,
flailing over the Queen. And I think that she's been put in place by an extreme right-wing group in the Tory party, and she's a Tory, so I don't trust them anyway.
All right, Katie Tyrrell McCafferty, thank you so very much for your time this morning. Pat McCart, always a pleasure to have you on and to hear your views. Thank you so much for your time this week.
Morning, Greg. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Thank you very much indeed. And we're joined now on the programme by the Right Reverend Andrew Forster, who's the Bishop for the Diocese of Derry and Raphoe, and reflecting on the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Good morning and thank you for your time today. Your reflections on yesterday's news, and I think quite early on it seemed somewhat inevitable that news was to follow late in the evening, Reverend.
It was. Good morning, Greg, and thanks for having me on this morning. I suppose, like a lot of people, I heard the news sort of around lunchtime that things weren't sounding good, and the family were on the way to Balmoral and so on. And there did seem a sort of an inevitability, but yet at 6:30, whenever the announcement came, there was that. I suppose everybody felt a real sense of sadness and shock, and there is a sadness at the passing of somebody who, whether we're from Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, wherever we are across the world, has been, such a recognisable figure and such a well-known figure, and that loss impacts each of us. But I suppose the way I want to look at it, I'm very sad at the passing of such a remarkable person, but yet filled with thankfulness as well for a life of service, a life of devotion, a life of faith, and a life that in many ways pointed us to beyond ourselves, to realise that there is a better way, that to realise that to be a neighbour, to be a friend, to be a human being calls us to a nobler way of living. And I think Queen Elizabeth did that throughout her long and varied life.
And there is going to be a broader sense of loss, I think, particularly in Britain, in that for most people, I imagine it's for most people, Queen Elizabeth has been there either in the foreground or the background of their lives, you know what I mean, ever present, really. I mean, it's really quite remarkable when you think 75 years in that position.
Yeah, it is remarkable. And, you know, when you the vast majority of people who live in the world, really, she's been the only monarch in the United Kingdom over that time. And for those who were her subjects in the United Kingdom, you know, the vast majority, again, that's all they have known. And, you know, she has been, there's a word that's come through over the last day, the constant, and she has been this sort of constant in an ever-changing world, and has helped people navigate some of the changes that we've had to live through in this world as well.
Stay with me. I think it's 71 years, not 75, as a reference. We're joined also by Mary Hart, broadcaster and journalist. And Mary, perhaps not surprisingly, we've had a number of texts in saying, you know, why are you talking about this issue? Queen Elizabeth was the Queen of Britain, not the Queen of Ireland. We don't have a royal family. Tell us why maybe that person and those people aren't looking at the wider picture, that that Queen Elizabeth was actually really quite important to quite a number of people on this island.
She was, and she is, and probably will remain always for those of us that grew up with her. I mean, even for myself as a child, I was fascinated by a princess, and then, that she became a queen. And, I do remember having, books with photographs. And now perhaps that's just because of where I lived and other issues. I this was my own way of looking at this, and I know some of your guests had mentioned that it was older people that were commenting on the radio, and of course I belong to that generation. But yesterday, when the news came through on the television, my 30-year-old daughter, who's Irish through and through, was very sad. And she, like many of her generation, have seen the Queen as being a very strong woman who was a young girl who was, I suppose, put into a position very young and held that position extremely well and carried out her duties extremely well and was a strong woman. And that's what young people are seeing in the Queen. So it's not just the older generation that are looking at her. I suppose my answer to your first question now is that what people are looking at, the connection between Ireland and her visit to Ireland, but that connection with Ireland came out of a very courageous step that she took by handing across going to Belgium in 1998 and actually agreeing to be part of the opening of the Island of Ireland Peace Park to remember the Irish soldiers. And
can I add, just in case you choose not to, your father was incredibly integral in that, and a very strong argument could be made that the seeds were planted that day that led to the 2011 visit. But I'll let you continue. I just want everyone to be aware of your father's role in that.
Yeah, because this was something that was not government. It was not official. There was no protocol. So it was that bit easier. My father was indeed the driving force behind having the Peace Park and the Island of Ireland as a memorial to the Irish of all of Ireland. And most people will not know this story, but my father at the time told me, look, we're trying to have President McAleese to open the park, but we also need to have the Queen, because for it to be an all-Ireland, I suppose, event or ceremony. And I do know that President McAleese felt it was too early for her to acknowledge British soldiers, or soldiers that died in the British Army. But when the word came back that Queen Elizabeth was very anxious to take part, then Mary McAleese said, well, we'll do it. So really, it was the Queen who instigated that. That was the very first time that the two heads of state ever had met, of the Irish Republic and a British monarch. And the seeds were sown that day. And, my late father, when he met the Queen that day, and she said, oh, so you're responsible for this. He said to her, I would like to encourage you, if you ever receive an official invitation to come to Ireland, please accept it, because you'll be warmly welcomed. And it was 13 years later when she did that. And she did mention at her speech in Dublin Castle that the first time that she had met was in Flanders in Belgium. So that was when the seed was sown, and that was the important step that was taken in Anglo-Irish relations, because remember, 1998 is very different from today. There were still British Army posts along the border. There was still, the IRA had not surrendered their weapons. So you still didn't have the Good Friday Agreement. It was just about being signed. So, the situation was still very tense and very difficult to include anything to do with Britain and indeed to do with the British Army. So it was a bold, courageous step for her to take at that time.
Bishop Forster, in some ways, did history stop yesterday, in that really it's very hard to imagine the British monarchy the same way. Of course it can't be, because Queen Elizabeth is no longer its head, but you just wonder, and we're not here to tease out the future of it, but it's more as a reference to how ever present she was, and the roller coaster and the amount of huge events through history that she was the Queen of England. How will people who held her in such high regard and who are fond of the monarchy, what will their life be like going forward, I wonder? If you understand the convoluted question.
I do indeed, Greg, and I think one of the things you've touched on there is the longevity of her life. To be 96 is remarkable age to reach, and to somebody to still be performing some of her duties, even up to a couple of days ago, is remarkable. So the change is a remarkable and incredible thing, and I suppose in not just the UK, but across Europe at the moment, there is a lot of change. There's been a change of Prime Minister in the UK. We're looking at this cost of living crisis. We have a war in Europe. Things are in flux and change and so on. And in one way, this adds to that change. Now, monarchy, of course, is an institution of continuity. And I suppose one of the things that really struck me yesterday, I was watching the news at 6:30 when the news came through, and the statement that said the Queen died peacefully in Balmoral this afternoon, the King, and straight away the King is referenced, and I suppose monarchy is about that continuity. My goodness, what a hard act for the King to follow, but yet he has had that long preparation,
exactly,
the longest heir to the throne ever, and I'm sure everyone, whether we're monarchists or not, feel for him today, because he's not only having to take on the mantle of sovereign of the United Kingdom, but he's also mourning the loss of a much loved mother, and and now the head of a family, and I'm sure all of us feel for him personally and for his family at this time of loss too.
Bishop, thanks for your time this morning, and thanks for always being so welcoming of our invitations. It's really appreciated. The Bishop for the Diocese of Derry and Raphoe, the Right Reverend Andrew Forster. Have a nice day. Thank you very much indeed. And Mary Hartz, as always, thank you for your contribution. I really appreciate your time. Take care of yourself as well. Okay. 086 60 25,000, that's the WhatsApp and text number. You've been keeping it busy. You've been keeping us busy on the phones. I want to get to all of your comments. They're coming in thick and fast in their dozens. But we're going to take a break for the news and obituary notices. And after that, we have all your legal questions and conversation with Seamus Gunn.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
Don't know why she's leaving.
Joe Gallagher Entertainment presents Chris Norman, the original voice of Smokey, returns to Donegal on the 30th of October to the Mount Erigal Hotel, Letterkenny. Tickets on sale from the Mount Erigal Hotel reception, Joe Gallagher Entertainment office and Ticketmaster.ie.
Nutrius Weanling Crunch offer, directly supported by the Arrivo Fodder Support Fund, is now available at your local Homeland store. Buy 10 bags of Nutrius Weanling Crunch ATP, get one free. The Nutrius Beef ATP pack enhances animal performance through maximising rumen efficiency. T's and C's apply. Contact your local Homeland or farm commercial specialist today. Visit nutrius.ie for full product details.
Thinking of North America?
Aer Lingus from Donegal Airport is the way to go. With great fares and onwards connections across North America, you'll fly via Dublin, where you'll pre-clear customs, saving you time on arrival. See airlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Tune in to Rocking Hits on Highland this Friday night with Joe Dex from 8 till 10 p.m. in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. Check out Arena 7 Bowling, 10 state-of-the-art bowling lanes, surround sound, stylish seating and funky lighting. Plus Marty Friel playing party hits every Saturday night. See arena7.ie.
Hi everyone, Madeleine here from the 4-star Ballyliffin Lodge and Spa, County Donegal. I hope you're coming along to our wedding fair on Sunday the 11th of September from 1 to 4 p.m. Only the best exhibitors on show, plus many more treats and surprises for all through the doors. One fair not to be missed, the 4-star Ballyliffin Lodge and Spa.
When you hit a certain age, exercise can seem like all pain and no gain. I mean, no one wants to see yours truly wearing Lycra. But keeping fit doesn't have to mean getting ripped. Simple things like bringing the dog for a walk.
Come on, boy, come on.
And taking the stairs more often can make a big difference. Work out what works for you. Get more tips at sportireland.ie/workout.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The Taoiseach says Queen Elizabeth led an extraordinary life of duty and dedication. She died yesterday afternoon at the age of 96 following a 70-year rule. A period of mourning has officially begun across the UK. Details of the funeral are expected to be announced later today. It's understood to be on Monday the 19th of September, which will be a UK national holiday. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar says Queen Elizabeth served her country right until the end of her life.
It is the end of an era, the end of a pretty extraordinary life. And if I was to sum up in one word her life, I think it was a life of duty. Someone who became Queen when her father died at a very young age of 25. And even up until the last few days was receiving her latest Prime Minister Liz Truss, and that's just an extraordinary level of duty and dedication.
Well, Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh has described her visit to Ireland in 2011 as significant. Speaking on today's 9 till noon show, Councillor Kavanagh says the Queen's duty to her people was remarkable.
It was a very, very healing thing, I think, that was in 2011, and she deserves great credit for that. And it's important too, I think, that people know that she initiated that big time, you know, that she was very, very keen to do it. She had that very, very strong sense of duty. She has been an incredible servant to the British people, regardless of what you think of monarchies or anything else.
EU energy ministers are meeting to discuss Europe's growing energy crisis. The emergency summit in Brussels was called to consider ways of reducing electricity use during peak hours and compensating people struggling with their bills. The European Commission is also asking them to discuss making energy providers share their excess profits with national governments. Environment Minister Eamon Ryan says EU member states need to come together.
I think it's in our interest for this to be agreed. I don't think it needs unanimity today. We're not looking for every country to do the exact same measure, but I think it will give ourselves at home greater strength in the measures we do want to take as part of the response, as a part of protecting our people through a very difficult time.
The families of the 2 teenagers who died after getting into difficulty at Lough Ena in County Derry have expressed their appreciation for the kindness, love, support and prayers received. 16-year-olds Reuven Simon and Joseph Sebastian passed away on Monday, August the 29th and were laid to rest at a joint funeral last Friday. Donna Marie Doherty has more.
In a statement, the families say they have drawn enormous strength from the sympathy and support received from Derry and beyond, and for that they say they will always be grateful. They have also thanked all of those involved in the search, rescue and recovery operation. In conclusion, both families say they hope some good can come from the tragedy by ensuring better and safer management of all lakes and waterways and educating people of the very stark dangers of water. In doing so, they say they hope other families will never have to suffer the avoidable death of a loved one.
There's renewed calls for the planning service to be reinstated at Carndonagh Public Services Centre. The planning section was centralised to Lifford in recent years. However, the Inishowen Municipal District continually receives the highest number of planning applications in Donegal, something local councillor Martin Farm believes warrants a full-time planning service to be based in the peninsula. He says with the MICA redress scheme coming down the line, assistance being available locally for affected homeowners is imperative.
We talk about MICA, and we've got a serious problem here in Inishowen with MICA, and obviously there's going to be more and more planning applications coming in, and I feel that it would be vitally important that the planning section, in my opinion, should be reinstated and put back into your public service centre again. I'm very adamant that that should happen. Instead of services being taken out, we should be adding to them.
Weather now rather cloudy and damp this morning with patchy rain and drizzle clearing. Rain and drizzle will largely clear during the afternoon to allow some sunny spells to develop. Highest temperatures of 18 to 20 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Friday morning, September the 9th. The death has taken place of John McDavid, Knockastoller, Bunbeg, originally from Fintown. His remains are reposing at Rorty's funeral home, Derrybeg, this afternoon from 3 o'clock until 6:45. Removal afterwards to St Mary's Church, Derrybeg, for 7 o'clock to repose overnight. Funeral Mass in St Mary's Church, Derrybeg, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in Fintown Cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty Funeral Director's Facebook page. Family flowers only, donations in lieu to medical for Letterkenny University Hospital. The death has taken place of Sarah Ann Sadie McDowell of Drung Quigley's Point. A funeral service will take place today at 12 noon in Greenbank Presbyterian Church at Quigley's Point, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, donations if wished in lieu of flowers to Nazareth House Nursing Home Fawn, County Donegal. The death has occurred of Lena Boyle, the Gate, the Diamond Dunlow. Her remains are reposing at her own home this afternoon from 2 o'clock with rosary at 9 o'clock. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in the Star of the Sea Church, Annagry, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. And the death has occurred in Southampton, England, of Charlie Doherty, formerly of 10 Cockhill Road, Buncrana. Funeral leaving his former residence in Buncrana this morning at 10:30 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
And you're welcome back, and you have been doing so in great numbers. So let's run through some of your messages. Just to remind you once again that Seamus Gunn will be joining us in a few minutes to answer your legal questions. So get them into us right now. Also, if you're on your way or en route to Garth Brooks, his first concert is tonight. Maybe you're on a bus or in a car and it's safe to do so. Send us a voice message. Sing us a Garth Brooks song, whatever. WhatsApp your voice messages to 08660 25,000. If we get a few in, we'll play them out a little later on. So, you know yourself, send in a voice message if you are on your way to Garth Brooks, or if you're not, it doesn't matter. That's a option that is always there for you. Just to let you know that as a mark of respect to Queen Elizabeth, the RNLI Bucket Collection in Letterkenny Shopping Centre will not go ahead. Morning, Greg. I heard Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh say there was nothing he could do about the school bus situation, so what is the point in having and paying these councillors when they cannot seem to help the people? Thank you. He would say, I presume, whether it satisfies you or not, that he helps in that he makes contacts on behalf of people. Theresa May brought Johnson and the Brexiteers into government to make them responsible for realistic negotiations. It didn't work. Truss seems to be trying the same tactic. It doesn't look as though it will work for her either. Another caller says the current government are living off positive headlines like free school buses, but have no intention of implementing it. Good morning. Wonder if any of you know if dairy shops or businesses are closed today due to the Queen's death. That comes in from Celine. I don't think so. I haven't heard any announcements in that regard. Parent of a child in national school says that the Irish children in the class are all being made to sit next to a Ukrainian child. The problem is that Irish children are now being disrupted and find it hard to keep up in class because they are having to help the child next to them understand what's going on in the class. The problem has been put on the shoulders of the children, who have already gone through a hard enough time through COVID with their education. This is leading to resentment towards the Ukrainian children. Right, okay, I'm surprised at that. I mean, it's very early. It's very early in the school year, and maybe all children are different, but how I would have thought young children in national school would not really feel disrupted or have resentment towards Ukrainian children. I mean, children don't have those views really, do they? Unless maybe they've had them put into them. I would have thought it's just a little bit different in class. Morning, Greg. I was wondering if you could shed any details on what the weather will be like in Dublin for this evening. Many thanks. We'll get a weather forecast for you on that, of course. I looked at what it's going to be like for me, and apparently it's going to be okay. That's tomorrow night. Looking for somebody. I'll come to do that separate. That's separate from comments. Hi, Greg. Rebus tickets. We have found out there were 50 applications for tickets on my son's route, yet they put on a bus with 35 seats. That leaves 15 students pushed into the hands of the private companies at a cost per head return €1,100 when the fee last year was $350. As you have mentioned, the green element also. This is another example of a complete incompetence at the highest level, shambles. Very hard to make an argument against that. You know, really, really is. Put on more buses. If you are going to offer free transport to children, put on more buses. If you're not capable of figuring out that you're going to need more buses, find a different job. And I don't mean that harshly. It's not anti any particular party of government. But if you can't figure out that you make school bus transport free, and if you can't figure out that more children are going to access that, more parents are, when you're encouraging families to work from home, you know, people are living lives in a different way. So more seats might be required on buses. If you can't work out the fact that we want to get cars off the road and get people on buses where we can, if you can't figure all that out and then you hide when you have to answer those questions, I would respectfully suggest you need to find another job. The same as any of us, any of you listening out there, if you were incompetent in your work, you'd be expected to find another job, wouldn't you? Or you'd be sacked. That's the way it works. You can't just hide from it. You know, if the boss here has an issue with me, I can't run into the back office and lock the door and say, I'm not speaking. You know, I'd have to go and have that meeting the same way as, you know, if the education minister is invited to speak to an Oireachtas committee on this issue, cross-party Oireachtas committee, including members from government, of course, and she runs off. Whilst all this, we live the reality of the mess, then you shouldn't be in that job, should you? And I'm not calling for heads or a head and a stick or nothing like that. I'm just saying that's basically it, isn't it? Isn't that the way life works for the rest of us? Why shouldn't it work for people in positions of power, I would suggest? Our national debt needs paid off. We need to look after our debt as a mortgage which needs paying. Yeah, that's not as big an issue. And I know people talk about it being on our children and grandchildren's shoulders, but we've been paying off debt from our grandparents for years as well. The thing that makes me laugh is that this giveaway budget that's going to be making our lives better. They're literally lending us our money to make things easier for us, and at the same time pay it to electric companies, gas companies that are already making a fortune. So they're taking our money, right? This is the plan. This is what they've done in England too. We're going to do it differently. They take our money because it's our money. They lend it to us, and the reason they're lending it to us is because we pay it back through our taxes. And that money goes to these gas and electricity companies, which are making an absolute fortune. And we pay an interest on it, right? So they take our money, give it to us, right? And then we have to pay it back with interest. And that money goes to electricity companies. And that is how this budget's going to be. Yet it's going to be a budget to help people, right? It's our money that's been lent to us and being paid to these companies who are making an absolute fortune. This by people who've already just got a 6.5 pay rise themselves. It's a funny old world, isn't it? It really is. Okay, let's take a break, and we'll be back with more after these messages and the bingo numbers.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 9th of September. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S20. It's game number 36. The numbers are 62, 6, 30, 83, 78, 89, 71, 34, 73, and finally 38. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale extended until Sunday.
Since she got her free hearing aids with her PRSI at Specsavers, Roisin is a changed woman. Music has never sounded better, and that makes her dance. And dance. And dance. Her singing, though, well...
Free hearing aids with PRSI at Specsavers. Music to your ears. Find out more online. Terms and conditions apply. The award-winning Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor now offers a wide range of skin boosters. The injectable moisturiser for under eyes that improves dark circles, fine lines and wrinkles. Also treating the face, neck, chest and hands. This amazing treatment works from the inside out, resulting in brighter, smoother, plumper skin. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. You can download the Genesis app or call 074 953 2575.
Kids going back to school? With Donegal's largest selection of 7-seaters available, make sure to visit iMotors. All of our cars come with up to 12 months warranty and are fully checked over by our experienced team of technicians. Call today or visit imotors.ie.
Attention all pet lovers and owners. Gary's Pet World Letterkenny is open 7 days per week, offering the very best value on all pet foods, accessories, grooming and care products. Call in and let our staff help you spoil your pet today. You will be amazed by the range of product for all pets, with exceptional value on all leading brands. Alternatively, you can browse and buy online at petworld.ie and we will deliver to your home.
The Euro Millions Mega Draw is back, and it's really big. It's actually massive. This Friday, September 9th, the Euro Millions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
You're all living your best lives now, aren't you?
That's right. Andrea got a new car with heated everything. Greg's finally having his horse-themed wedding. I'm getting the bathroom redone. It's a waterfall rain shower.
This mightn't be your life, but with a loan from An Post Money, you can live your best life with Ireland's lowest rate on loans over 20k. Apply now at onpost.com/loans. An Post Money, your money for your world. Lending criteria, T's and C's apply. New applications only. Info correct July 14, 2022. Source CCPC for Ireland's lowest rate. An Post acts as a credit intermediary on behalf of Avantcard DAC. An Post trading as An Post Money is authorised as a credit intermediary by the CCPC. Avantcard DAC trading as Avant Money is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We say good morning now to Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn & Co. Letterkenny and Remote. And good morning to you, Seamus. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Greg. Nice to be here.
Right, before we get to listeners' questions, I want your views on this. And actually, I think it's really quite important from a legal perspective that we clarify a few things, because there's a couple of conversations going on surrounding secondary school teacher Enoch Berg. He's remaining in Mountjoy prison for at least another week, this after refusing to give an undertaking that he would obey a High Court order. Now, a lot of people believe he's in court because he refuses to refer to a student as they. That has led us to this position, but that's not why he is in Mountjoy, Seamus.
No, quite definitely not, Greg. This is basically because he will not purge his contempt of an order which is in place, which is an injunction to prevent him from attending the school, which he is persisting and insisting on doing. In fact, actually, I understand from the reports, sitting in an empty classroom up to, again, early in the week. So it was inevitable that they would have to come back into court and seek to have him brought in and incarcerated as a result of his contempt. And there he will rest until he purges his contempt. He can do that at any time. The judge made that very clear during the week. But the school have been very clear in pointing out that there was a disciplinary process that is ongoing. And I think it's worth emphasising this, that a court will be very reluctant to actually step in and oversee that. It will let that process take place. That is considered to be a fair process. And whenever he signs up under his terms of contract, I'm assuming as well that that's part and parcel of it. He's suspended it on full pay. And the reason for that was that there was an incident and it was in public. And I think that it was at a school event whereby he challenged the principal about the use of the pronoun they in referring to one of the students. So in that context, the school principal thought, well, it's high risk that there could be a situation arising in a classroom. And she brought it to the attention of the Board of Management, and they thought it was best to recommend the suspension on full pay until there was a disciplinary process that was gone through and a decision made as to how they went forward with it. In the meantime, rather than accede to that, which was their decision, he decided to return back to school and attend the school. So I think it's inevitable that they would again apply to the High Court. He was in for 2 days early on in the week in Mountjoy, where he was being held because of the contempt. And now during the week, it's put back. He's being returned for another 7 days. As I said, he could go back at any time if he agrees to purge his contempt. But he is saying that these are his religious beliefs.
But this is what
and that he holds these and he's entitled to them, and he has a constitutional right to hold them.
But he seems to be. This is what I don't get, and I'm not sure if he's using this as an opportunity to get the publicity that he thinks this issue deserves. But he seems to be.
That is a very good point, because but what we are now infringing on, though, is a child's rights, privacy.
Yes, I do. But
the school has been identified.
Yes,
and it's in the public domain and has been and will be again. There's a question about, is that the right place for it? Because it is a very sensitive issue. There is an individual going through a very, very sensitive time in their life, and this is bringing a highlight to it that I consider inappropriate.
Yes, of course, and I understand that. But he and his supporters perhaps might say that this highlights the fact that child, might need counselling or something along those lines. You see, that's what the argument here. But I just want to focus on the arguments taking place in the court. You see, to me, he seems to be making the argument that the disciplinary hearing was designed for. In other words, he talks of why he doesn't want to refer to this person as they, and how he feels that his beliefs are being infringed upon. That's not what the High Court order is about. The High Court order is about him not turning up to school or approaching the principal. So he's making what some might see very valid arguments if you share his views, but they're not relevant to why he's in court. They're relevant to why a disciplinary hearing is taking place. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. The one point that it leads to is this, that argument that he's making should have been made in the correct forum. The disciplinary process has not concluded. It has only started. there will be a disciplinary hearing, and those arguments, that is the place for him to make those arguments in that environment and in that forum. And that's in the first instance. Secondly, if he had a difficulty about being suspended in the first instance with pay, he could have challenged that. He could have gone to the High Court by way of seeking a judicial review, saying the initial process by which it was considered was unfair and it was infringing on his constitutional rights. He didn't do that either. He didn't challenge the order earlier when there was an injunction against him, and he went to prison for 2 days. So those were two processes he could have done. You're making the point that he has leapfrogged forward and is trying to make these arguments in the High Court. The judge was very, very clear. On Wednesday of this week, it was Justice Barrett, I believe, and stated that this was not about transgenderism at all. This case was about an injunction that was in place, and that this individual was in contempt of court, and the only remedy for that was to have him incarcerated until such time as he would purge his contempt. Now, where he goes next, we will be watching and waiting to see next week. But that's where it's at, and any attempt to highlight the constitutionality of his beliefs in the court at the moment is not relevant actually to the proceedings that are actually before the court. It is very relevant in relation to the forum, which is the disciplinary process and the hearing that has yet to take place. And if he held back and waited on that and made his argument there, this may not even be in the public domain at all.
Well, I mean, of course, and that talks to motivation.
That may be preferable for all concerned.
Yeah, because in fairness to him, not in fairness to him, but recognising that in terms of having this debate and people discussing it and where they're at, there are people that have been roaming the country with mobile phones and shouting into loudhailers for 2 or 3 years, and they have not achieved what he has managed to achieve in a week. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but if his motivation was to get publicity, he's done more than many that have went before him.
Yes, he has done, but is that correct in the context of this type of case?
Well, people will have their views, you see.
And given the sensitivity of what's going on in another young person's life at the moment, that's the question, and I think that the media should stand back and look at that as well.
Yep, I take your point. And also, too, we don't know if, say, for instance, a new student had arrived into school and he wasn't sure of their birth gender. What kind of a stand might he take on that issue? You know, if any, because I'm sure that situation has arose.
The principal thought that in school circumstances where he had stated his personal views on transgenderism, that obviously could give rise to serious concerns going forward.
And of course, he's a long-time campaigner.
How that would impinge on other students in a similar situation.
And he's been a long-time campaigner on issues like this and others as well. I'm sure most people are aware. So from a legal perspective, right, say, for instance, he doesn't mind Mountjoy and he refuses to comply with the court order. Does that run its course? Could this go on indefinitely? What
I would think is that it's a very interesting point. You're basically saying, well, could he sit in Mountjoy, and he said that he would be quite prepared to do so, and he mentioned 100 years at one stage. If he was asked the same question every day for over 100 years, he'd give the same reply that he wouldn't use. He wasn't prepared to use the they pronoun. So, in dealing with your point, usually what would happen in a situation is like in this: if he continues to refuse, the judge could decide in that instance, I'm giving you X amount of months in jail for your contempt, okay, because you refused to purge his contempt. So, and he's quite prepared to do that time. So then, as that time expires, he's entitled, obviously, to his freedom. Now, if he goes out and goes back into the classroom again, and still is in defiance of the injunction, which is what it is all about in the first instance, he is then in contempt again for a second time, and he can then be brought back to court again, and the same process can be advanced by the state. They can't ignore it if he's in contempt of a court order, and that will continue. Now, who knows how that will play out, but that is the process. So he could be sentenced for his initial contempt. He could do that time, could get back out, and if he repeats, he could be brought back before the court for a second time or a third time.
Yeah, and you reference this and maybe finish on this point, because to be honest with you, adult, right? But, young people, they're young people and they're different to us, and, maybe they're not conditioned for abuse or people talking about them or whatever. We don't know the impact they might have on them. There is a young person here who is the focus of all of this and who might be exposed to many, many adults online going, Enoch's a hero. And I just wonder, it saddens me just that we've gone, we can be so hard in our views now that we've gone to some extent where we no longer think of the human impact on this for other people as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was really what I thought of initially, regardless of the injunction and the legal technicalities of it. When you pare it down, there is a vulnerable individual making a very, very real decisions in their lifetime. It's extremely sensitive, and it should be treated with great respect. And if that is the way they want to go, so be it. They have their constitutional rights too, and perhaps he should observe them.
And I speak to young people, and we're not sort of straying into debate about it, but I speak to young people, teenagers, be it in my family or friends and family or what have you, and they've got friends that use different pronouns, and it doesn't bother them. They don't care. All they care about is that their friend is happy. They don't think of the religious implications or the social implications. All they care about is that their friend is happy.
Yeah, and they are so they are beyond that. They're nearly, well, and there are so many probably non-binary, as it were, some non-gender, and so be it. Everybody has the same rights. Everybody's the same rights under the Constitution, and everybody's rights should be protected and will be under the Constitution.
All right, Seamus, fascinating as always. We'll be back with more, in fact, your questions to Seamus after the break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Imagine a whole new way to save on your electricity with Bord Gáis Energy Super Saver Plan. Just by switching to Bord Gáis Energy this September, you can get 39% off your electricity, so you can spend your money where it matters most. Switch your electricity to our Super Saver Plan at bordgaisenergy.ie. EAB €1,185, 12-month discount with direct debit and paperless billing. Unit rate and standing charge apply. See bordgaisenergy.ie for EAB prices and full T's and C's.
Nutrius Weanling Crunch offer, directly supported by the Arrivo Fodder Support Fund, is now available at your local Homeland store. Buy 10 bags of Nutrius Weanling Crunch ATP, get one free. The Nutrius Beef ATP pack enhances animal performance through maximising rumen efficiency. T's and C's apply. Contact your local Homeland or farm commercial specialist today. Visit nutrius.ie for full product details.
Want unbeatable value from Sky? Here's the deal. Get Sky Broadband for just €29 a month, plus Sky Q for only €10 a month. Super fast, super reliable broadband. And Sky Q with your apps and recordings. That's Sky Broadband for €29 a month, plus Sky Q for €10 a month for 12 months. Now that is unbeatable value. Go to sky.ie. Availability subject to location. Offer does not include Sky TV subscription. New Sky customers only. Setup fees, minimum term and further terms apply. For more info, see sky.ie/speeds.
It's Aldi's best value back to school event ever with up to 45% off this week's Aldi Savers. Cassidy's share bag was $1.79, now 99 cents. Plain white napkins was $1.19, now 69 cents. Dairy Fine chocolate was $1.49, now 99 cents. Choco or Honey Hoops was $1.39, now 99 cents. Pasta sauces was $1.89, now $1.49. And spaghetti was 99 cents, now 69 cents. Aldi have savings after savings after savings. Just saying.
We are still in the company of Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Co, Letterkenny and Ramelton. Seamus, thanks for your time as always. A caller wants to know, is it legal to exceed the speed limit to safely pass a slower vehicle? It's a straight road. The speed limit is 100 kilometres per hour. Clocked at 123 kilometres per hour, manoeuvre completed safety with no danger or inconvenience to any other driver. So it sounds like maybe the car they were overtaking was doing 80, 90. I'm not sure if that's a slow driver.
Yeah,
They stuck the foot down and peaked.
The key to the question is it in order for someone to take the law into their own hands and to be beyond the law and to consider that in these circumstances, I am justified in carrying out this action? It's irrelevant that there's no car coming, that it's not a dangerous maneuver, that there's no one at risk or obvious risk. The speed limit on that particular road at that point is, as you stated, 100k. It is there for a reason. It's not a motorway, so it's 100k, and that's the maximum usually if you're not on a motorway. And it has been assessed as being an appropriate speed that is safe for users. So the individual here decides, well, look at everything's kosher here. That car is doing 80, you think maybe, or so. It's safe for me to pass it and go to 123, and I'll maybe clocked at that. If you consider that it is in order in those circumstances for one to make a decision to consider that they're bigger than the law, and it's no harm to anybody, so be it. But the law is there for a reason. It has to be observed, and statistically, and this hasn't been a brilliant year, I know, but statistically, road deaths have come well back, so they have, compared to what they were a decade ago, and that is a fact. So I think now they're a hindrance to everybody. You know, no one likes them. The possibility of getting a ticket can easily happen. It can be even accidental. What I don't agree with is this, though. If you're talking about trying to criticize it, so I would say to the individual, my answer to that is no. That's the speed limit. You have to stick within it, and if you're above it, so be it. In those circumstances, but where I have a criticism of the system, as it were, is where you have limits of maybe 60 or thereabouts, and you have speed traps nearly laid for people, which is like shooting fish in a barrel, that you could be coming across and you're not aware of it or immediately aware of it in the smaller zones, and you can be inadvertently over it. And I think there's there is an argument to be made there that that's somewhat unfair, because in a lot of cases you mightn't be able to even know what the speed limit is. Usually in the 100s, it's very clear, because most motorists will know if you're not on a motorway, it doesn't go beyond 100. So in dealing with that, but there are situations where you could make an argument, well, you know, people reference it all the time, like, you know, that's it's like just you're coming into a 60 zone, but you don't really know it, and you're above maybe 65 or something like that, and suddenly you're clocked at that, and you get a ticket. Certainly an argument for it, but in the round and considering the purpose of it, it has been effective, and the limits have saved lives.
Okay, just separate to that, and I don't want to get caught up on special cases, but say, for instance, if you're going up Lurgy, Brackhead or Letterkenny, there is a temporary speed limit there for the school in certain hours.
Yes,
it's partially obscured at the moment by branches for some reason.
Also,
if you're climbing that hill and there's two lorries in the slow lane, the climbing lane, you may not see that, and you may not either know when school's on or off, or when that light should be on or off. I mean, you would have a strong argument if you can't see that sign to say, well, I did not know that a temporary speed limit of 60 kilometres was in situ. Like, I don't know why that sign is not put in a place where motorists has a fair chance of seeing it.
Yeah, well, that's a point that could be made to both the authorities, local authority, and maybe the Gardaí, Greg. I mean, it is the point that I'm making, that this is a situation where you have inadvertently actually exceeded the limit and technically broken the law. Remember this, though, everybody has the right to contest any prosecution, and you are innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
So in that situation, you have an argument to put up. So you do not pay the fine, the fixed penalty charge, and you await and you receive the summons and you go to court and you outline that point to the judge. And then it'll be a decision will have to be taken on it. What the good that could come out of that is it will highlight the difficulty for road users, and there could be at least a recommendation that it become a little bit more visible. But at the point that you are referring to, and where the location, it's there for a purpose. It's near a school, etc., etc. And I can see the reason and the rationale behind that. But it should be more visible I think that we're ad idem for a change on this point, in that you can inadvertently actually exceed it. And another situation that can arise too, if you have an emergency, for example, you have to get home for something has happened, and this does happen. You might have to get to a hospital in an emergency situation, and you exceed the limit, and you put up that in exceptional circumstances. Then if you go along and explain that, I think you'll get a very reasonable hearing.
Yeah, I think there was a recent case of a person who was
Well,
transporting COVID tests or something along those lines, and had their the punishment reduced. Seamus, how long can an insurance company hold on your claim or conviction and keep using this to raise the price, both house and car?
Well, no, you want to check with different insurance companies may have different policies on that. If they're referencing the no claims bonus step back, it's usually over a period of 5 years. So you gradually get back to where you were pre-accident after the 5-year period. That's just a rule of thumb where you have your no claims bonus has been suspended. And the point that the caller, I think, is sort of inferring, and which is actually a good one, and might be more for the insurance ombudsman, is where you can't get a quote or you can't move insurance company if you've been in, unfortunately, say, in an accident this year or last year, and your insurance is up for renewal and you want to get quoted elsewhere. It's my understanding that it'll prove very difficult, if not impossible, to get a quote when there's a claim outstanding or pending against you. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've never rested easy with me.
All right, if someone puts in a planning appeal to An Bord Pleanála, now I imagine it might be an objection maybe, but they've never actually signed the document, they've just typed their name. Is it legal?
Well, it depends on the attitude Bord Pleanála would take to that. Does it invalidate it? My view would be that it should bear the signature of the objector. That would be, I think, something that would be considered normal. If An Bord Pleanála were looking at it, they may just return it and ask them to have it signed, affix their signature to it, and then relodge it. Whether or not, if it's time sensitive, which a lot of these are, and it then be considered a valid appeal, that is a trickier question, and one that it would be a matter for Bord Pleanála to deal with. On the face of it, though, they'll be aware of the objection, and the question is, would that stop the clock if it's time sensitive? And balance, I think it should be signed.
All right. Now I know some companies, if there are drive-offs of fuel, that can be docked from staff's pay. So a caller wants to know, if that happens, is that legal? And a second part to the question, can you be arrested for not paying for your fuel? I think I can hazard a guess on the second one because it's theft, effectively. So firstly, can the staff member be charged because of their, in inverted commas, incompetence for the drive off, and also the illegality of driving off?
Well, I think it would be harsh to charge the member of staff.
But it happens.
Is it legal? In attendance. I think it would be harsh, personally. In dealing with the legality or otherwise, or whether it's justified, I think that this is where the nitty-gritty of terms and conditions of their terms of employment are important. Because if they have signed up to that, and that is a condition of their employment, that if it's on your watch and this pump is X down, you're going to be responsible for it, and they're prepared to take that on board and sign up to it. I think in that situation they're on notice of it, and it could be enforceable. But I don't consider it fair. It's very poor relations. There's CCTV footage in all forecourts, I believe, and the matter could be investigated maybe differently, and find out the cause of it. It might have been a situation where it was extremely busy and the member of staff mightn't be to blame at all. So there could be a lot of grey areas there, and I would be disinclined to be penalising the member of staff. Now, going to the trickier point that you're asking about, if you leave the forecourt and you haven't paid. On the face of it, you're right in saying it's theft, but let's counter argue it and say, well, for larceny, you have to permanently intend to deprive the owner. Now, if you or I are on the forecourt and we get distracted, we're on our phone and we drive off and you haven't paid, and it might come to your attention later on and you intend to go back, you never intended to deprive the owner permanently of the cost of the petrol. So there is a defence that you would be raising, or what I would be considering raising, if that was the case. Now, so the difficulty on the face of it, yes, there is a difficulty and would be a difficulty in the proving of it. And that would depend entirely on the circumstances, maybe how long a period of time it was later, etc. So I wouldn't think it's just entirely clear cut. I think that there are a couple of avenues that you could go down with a view to raising a defence and maybe throwing some doubt on it. And as it is a criminal offence, it would have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
And I think what happens
it's a high enough threshold.
Yeah, I think what happens in a lot of cases is that Gardaí are contacted with a number plate. The Gardaí phone the vehicle owner, and at that point, presumably, it's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. I'll get the money to them straight away." Or they deny it, or they say it wasn't them, and then it sort of starts taking on a different.
It would be different, yeah. And you see, in practical terms, that's the matter dealt with. Then the fuel is paid for, the retailer is happy, and that's, it's not clogging up court time as such. Because that argument could be raised that, well, they just inadvertently they were distracted and overlooked it and left the forecourt, but once it was brought to their attention, they immediately remedied the situation.
Right.
And I don't think you would reach the threshold of beyond a doubt in that type of circumstance.
All right. Last one's a little bit complicated. It's about court-ordered access. The listener wants to know, what can we do about children who don't want to see their father effectively, even though it's court-ordered access? The children say the father speaks badly about the mother and it makes them uncomfortable and they're upset, and that's why they don't want to spend the time that's been mandated with their father. What happens in that situation?
Well, in any family law proceedings and the family law division, all decisions are taken always in the best interest of the child, not the parents, regardless of what relationship they have. I think it's acknowledged that the child is best to have access to both parents, and that's sensible and should be accommodated where at all possible and where practical. Yes, you're saying this is a complex matter. They haven't indicated the age of the children. If there's access in place, it would be a matter. If it's not suiting or not working out, then it would be a matter for one of the parties to go back into court and to outline that to the judge. The judge, considering it, may even interview the children to see how the matter could be dealt with going forward. They're raising a point about the way and manner in which one is addressing the other parent. That would seem to me to be something that could be solved maybe. If it was approached maturely by all parties. So I would like to think that it should not deprive access, that it could maybe, and it might take the case take the form of maybe having the children involved to some degree to outline their concerns to the judge, and then move the matter on from there with some type of curtailment or recommendations anyway that might suit all concerned. But in the best interest of the child, they are paramount, and that's what the court will always look to, and that alone.
All right, Seamus, listen, as always, thank you so very much for your time, and we'll carry questions over. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Company, Letterkenny and Ramelton. And also now, Seamus, obviously people can find out more information about your services online.
Yes, Greg, DonegalSolicitors.ie or just simply gunn.ie.
Nice one, Gunn. All right, listen, thank you very much indeed. That is Seamus Gunn there. Okie doke, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more after these.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Get a free pair of 1,000 mile socks with every pair of men's and women's running shoes at Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure. Run the roads, the beach or the track in comfort and style with the latest arrivals from top brands including Asics, Brooks and New Balance. Whether you're looking for extra cushioning, more lightweight shoes or trail shoes, you'll find the perfect pair of runners at michaelmurphysports.ie.
We all know everyone's bills are going up, so maybe it's time to say goodbye to those other supermarkets. At Lidl, we always help to make your full shop cost less, so hopefully it's one less worry. Because when you go full Lidl, you'll have the freedom to shop without compromise and pay less. So go on, go full Lidl today. Paying less when compared to other supermarket retailers when shopping like-for-like products on pro-rata prices. See Lidl.ie/go full Lidl for more.
The Homeland Garden event is on this weekend at your local Homeland Garden Centre. Save 20% on all shrubs, roses, perennials, plant feeds, solar lights and solar water features. Save 50% on all display barbecues and display garden furniture while stocks last from the 9th to the 11th of September only. Visit homeland.ie for opening hours.
All new weekends at Warehouse Bar and Kitchen. Bottomless brunch every Saturday and Sunday at Warehouse, only €25.
Every Sunday it's date or maid night with 2 main courses for €25.
Cocktail promotions and live music from 8 p.m. Warehouse Bar and Kitchen, Main Street, Letterkenny. Book your table now.
Donegal Local Development Company is hosting a showcase event called Celebrating Donegal Business in the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny on Saturday the 10th of September from 12 noon to 4 p.m. This event is free to attend and features the very best in local businesses. Find your perfect tradesman, beauty product, gift idea, outdoor adventure and much more, all in the one place. Come along and support your local businesses on a day that's guaranteed to be fun for all. There's lots of spot prizes and face painting for the kids. Make Celebrating Donegal Business your business this September the 10th. For more information, visit dldc.org.
Okay, please play a request for Nikita O'Donnell getting married in Newtown today, sending best wishes from Phil. Nikita O'Donnell in Manor and Jamie Buchanan getting married today, Newton, best wishes from Mum, Dad and Brother Hugh. Now we get one piece of music, really, maybe two, on the 9 till noon show at 10:30, and we have committed now going forward to support Irish music, play only Irish music. But today is a little bit different because thousands of you are travelling to see Gareth Brooks today, tomorrow, and for the rest of his concerts, and maybe you just want to get in the mood. And there he goes away now. Garth Brooks, he's getting ready for his first concert tonight. What's the weather forecast for you travelling down? Well, it's showery there at the moment, but the good news is it is fairing up. So around about 5 o'clock, 5:30, 18 degrees. Low risk of rain, temperatures around, wind speed around 11 kilometres. Very calm then, I suppose, as you would get towards 8 o'clock, 15 degrees. Still a low probability of rain. Winds around 6 kilometres. And for the end of the show, no rain, no chance of rain at all. Winds nowhere to be seen. And should be a nice sunny sunset. Okay, so if you're travelling down to Garth Brooks today, you're going to get good weather. For those of us travelling down tomorrow, the weather's looking pretty good too, okay, which is the one thing you can't predict when you run events in September, like even big concert organisers, or sports events organisers, really when you head into September, they stop planning stuff outdoors, in Britain certainly anyway, because you just don't know what the weather holds. A caller says, I just want to say how disgusted I am of all the wicked comments on Facebook on the death of Queen Elizabeth. These Irish people should be ashamed of themselves. Yes, indeed, but they're small in number. And I noticed particularly bars and stuff seem to go out of the way to revel in her passing. I think there was a cavalcade through Derry, and people have their rights and their views. But, in the case of someone's death, I just don't think it's really appropriate. That teacher is in the right. It's like forcing somebody to call an apple an orange. The censorship of free speech will lead to the censorship of free thought. But what if he wants to go in and call the kids effers? That's his free speech, isn't it? Or if he wants to call them C's, maybe he just wants to call people of a certain gender that word because he believes that to be the case. I'm not saying for a second he does, but what about firstly, we don't have free speech in this country. Just to be very clear, we have freedom of speech, which is not the same. But also the person's rights, we in exercising our rights, it doesn't, necessarily give us the right to compromise someone else's right. By him referencing someone, and this is just for the sake of conversation, it's not a censorship of free thought because he can think whatever he likes. He can call them in his head whatever he wants. It's just that they prefer to be called a certain thing. No more. If I go into school and I was called Gregory and I said to the teacher, well, I'd prefer to be called Greg, please. They might say, well, your name on your birth cert's Gregory and we're going to call you Gregory and that's just the way it is. And I go, well, I prefer to be called Greg. It's what makes me feel more comfortable. Would someone take a stand on such an issue either? It's complex, but there you go. I mean, we have to think of the rights of other people as well, don't we? Not just us. Like, I've got really, really strong views on certain things, but I can't go necessarily around enforcing them on other people and making them feel bad. And maybe, they've got constitutional rights that I'm encroaching on as well. Okay, let's take a break. It's a complex issue, one which people try and avoid, really, because you have your views. I don't think there's any middle ground on it. As such.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Farmers could be paid to cut suckler numbers. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Proposals to slash suckler numbers on the table. We reveal the new rules around slurry spreading. Don't miss our sheep breeding sales special. Fears mount over fertiliser supplies. And find out how much more your weanlings are worth.
Plus, in Irish Country Living, don't miss our Back to College special with 6 pages of practical tips from accommodation to money management. Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal, on sale now.
To get that job done, call Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny. Generators, portaloos and lighting towers. Also diggers, dumpers, rollers and much, much more. With short-term, long-term and weekend special rates available. Call Gortley Sales and Hire on 9126276.
Kids going back to school? With Donegal's largest selection of 7-seaters available, make sure to visit iMotors. All of our cars come with up to 12 months warranty and are fully checked over by our experienced team of technicians. Call today or visit imotors.ie.
In Ireland, we love our sport. But whatever the game, there are things we'd all love to change.
I'd make the pitch smaller.
But if you're a person from a disadvantaged or underrepresented group, changing the game can mean something very different.
I want to be judged on my performance, not on who I am.
Sport Ireland is working to make everyone feel more included. Find out how we're changing the game at sportireland.ie/sport for all.
Are you frequently asking others to speak slowly, clearly and loudly? Is listening to the TV or radio becoming harder? If your hearing is affecting your everyday life, Connect Hearing are here to help. Our clinics in Letterkenny and Dunloe are open Monday to Friday, where you can avail of our hearing test, wax removal and repair services. Take that first step to better hearing. Call us today on 07491 13296. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
Are you travelling to Dublin for business? Fly with Aer Lingus from Donegal to Dublin from $29.99 one way. 2 flights daily. See aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
A caller says, in school I learnt that they was a plural, and I find it confusing. Maybe we could call them by their name and it would be a good first step. It's not. It might be confusing to us of a certain generation, but to young people, in my experience, it's not confusing at all. They can switch between he, she or they with ease. It doesn't seem to bother them too much, unless we've told them a way of thinking. Will they be having a minute's silence during the concert for the Queen? It would be a nice mark of respect. I think it should have been cancelled. What? I think it should have been cancelled? Well, they're not even cancelling theatre in Britain. That's going ahead. I don't understand how all that works, to be honest with you. But football matches have been cancelled today, but they're cracking on with theatre. I don't understand the ins and outs of it all. I don't really mind either, one way or other. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show. Michael and Fanula will be taking their seats shortly. We're going to be talking about all things entertainment, a bit of crack, easing us into the weekend, lifting the spirits, hopefully somewhat. But let's get a news update at 11 o'clock. And welcome back onto the show, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Buckingham Palace has announced a period of mourning for the British royal family will be observed from now until 7 days after the Queen's funeral. People have been paying their respects outside the British Embassy in Dublin this morning after her passing at Balmoral yesterday afternoon. Details of the funeral haven't yet been given, but King Charles is expected to discuss the details later after arriving in London from Balmoral. The Bishop of Derry, Anne Raffo, meanwhile, says Queen Elizabeth was exemplary in showing that there is a better way. Bishop Andrew Forster says she demonstrated how being a neighbour and a friend led people to live a nobler way of life. Donegal County Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, meanwhile, has described Queen Elizabeth's visit to Ireland in 2011 as significant. He says her duty to her people was remarkable. The funeral mass is taking place of 3 young people who died in their home in Dublin last Sunday. 18-year-old Lisa Cash and her 8-year-old twin siblings Chelsea and Christy Colley tragically lost their lives at their home in Rossfield Avenue in Tala. They are being laid to rest at Bohernabrina Cemetery following the Mass at St Aidan's Church, Brookfield. EU energy ministers are meeting to discuss Europe's growing energy crisis. The emergency summit in Brussels was called to consider ways of reducing electricity use during peak hours and compensating people struggling with their bills. The families of the 2 teenagers who died after getting into difficulty at Lough Ena in County Derry have expressed their appreciation for the kindness, love, support and prayers received. 16-year-olds Reuven Simon and Joseph Sebastian passed away on Monday, August the 29th and were laid to rest at a joint funeral last Friday. The Donegal County Council has hit out as many healthcare workers still await their €1,000 pandemic bonus. It's now 7 months on from the government announcing the payment as recognition for frontline workers during the pandemic. It's emerged also that a tender process has commenced for a third-party contractor to assist with the payment process for private healthcare employees. And Met Éireann is warning of the potential for spot flooding in the coming days. A Stanislaw rainfall warning has been issued for the entire country. It will come into force at 2 a.m. on Sunday and remain in place until 12 a.m. Monday. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Okay, Michaela, thank you very much indeed. We'll be joined by Michael and Fanula after we take this break. Stay right where you are.
Rory Farrow and the Saturday Rewind team will be coming live this weekend from the Clanry Hotel in association with Donegal Local Development Company for the start of the Celebrate Donegal Business Showcase. We'll be talking to some of the exhibitors on the day in advance of the showcase opening at 12 p.m. with some great music and perhaps a few giveaways. Tune in, or if you're nearby, call in and say hello. That's this Saturday live on air from 10 a.m. at the Celebrate Donegal Business Showcase at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware, with stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at ormccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
The Euro Millions Mega Draw is back. And it's really big. It's actually massive. This Friday, September 9th, the Euro Millions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Sheridan Security, now introducing zero-wire smart alarm systems. Zero wire, zero mess, and a real peace of mind. With a simple press of a button, your alarm can be set or unset, or download the free app and control it from your phone. Call us today on 074 912 6025 and get your alarm from €299. Stay local, stay safe, and protect what you value most with Sheridan Security Systems.
GiveBlood.ie know we can count on you, our community of blood donors, to give blood and to choose to be there for others in their hour of need. Blood donors from Ballyshannon should attend the clinic in Coláiste Columkill Mercy Hall on Monday 12th of September, and donors from Donegal, Killybegs and Dunlow should attend the clinic in the Abbey Hotel in Donegal Town from Tuesday 13th to Thursday 15th. Making an appointment is recommended, so call 1-800-731-137 to book your time. Visit giveblood.ie to see eligibility and clinic details.
Don't know why she's leaving.
Joe Gallagher Entertainment presents Chris Norman, the original voice of Smokey, returns to Donegal on the 30th of October to the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny. Tickets on sale from the Mount Errigal Hotel reception, Joe Gallagher Entertainment office and Ticketmaster.ie.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show for the last hour of the week. And we want your involvement in this item as well. WhatsApp and text 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call 07491 25,000. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Greg.
How are you getting on?
I'm good. Can I be heard? Last week we had loads of fun.
Yes, but I had to admit during the week, because I had the same problem, there's a little PGM button on the desk that I hadn't pressed.
Yeah, I know all about them.
So when I PFL'd it, which is
I know.
phase listen or something, I could hear you. But when I put the fader up, I couldn't. But I hadn't pressed the button, so
Totally
it was entirely my fault.
Totally understood every word of that.
Yeah, okay.
Consciously, you were just erasing him.
Yeah, you were trying to blank me out. You were trying, you were trying to do a Thanos.
No,
See how I brought it back to
I
Marvel?
was cancelling you. I don't like your views. Right, 086 60 25,000. Get involved in the conversation or leave your messages on social media. Lots of you watching across our YouTube, Facebook channels and directly on our website, highlandradio.com. Fanula, you know, I've noticed there's a lot of entertainment items popping up on different radio stations now.
I know. In fairness, we've started a trend. I
Wow.
feel this could be my retirement. This could be my retirement plan, that I will just go to all 38 radio stations across the country and give my views.
What happens is, and I am conscious of this, but we have to try and appeal to everyone, is there's quite a lot of regular listeners that would listen for the first 2 hours and might go, you know, I might do the washing up. But then there's lots of other people. Then there's lots of other people that go, actually, you know what? I prefer listening to that. So, as I say, it's just trying to.
That's a polite way of saying that people turn off when they hear my voice.
No, it's not.
It's all right.
It's just saying we are all different and we all like different things.
I'll only 100%. Cry during the ad break.
Fanula, you have the Queen's death here, and I suppose it has to be Britain's Queen's death. I suppose it has to be included in that. You know, it was really quite remarkable because it was clear, and I had been told, and I think everyone knew anyway, that Queen Elizabeth had passed away early afternoon, and that the announcement would be made about 6 o'clock once the family had arrived. As it turned out, the announcement was made about 6:24, and it did that thing. And I seem to have some recollection of something in my childhood. I can't remember what the story was, where everything goes black across all the terrestrial channels. And then, we break into programming now with this special announcement. In terms of a TV spectacle, and not in any way to hopefully be unsympathetic, very, very rare.
Oh, it was. It definitely was one of those kind of moon landing-y type of things that people would be sort of saying, you're watching anything. Because I was actually checking the channels just to see what they were doing, and checking like some of the American news channels and different things like that, because I was like, God, I wonder how far has this gotten. CNN had literally dug up whatever 2 English people they could find in the building because it was hilarious. They had very little to say, and along with I can't think of his name, the white-haired guy. What's the journalist?
No.
No.
CNN guy.
He does the New Year's, and he does all that kind of stuff. He comes from a very posh family. Anderson Cooper, that's it.
Yeah.
They pulled him out, and they had 2 or 3 people there and all this kind of stuff, and they did the whole Meghan Markle and all that crack. And they just was talking to themselves, like that's hilarious. What I thought about it was, one, obviously, as anybody who's listened knows, when Philip died, I went on a documentary binge because his life was so interesting. The Queen's a little bit less so, but still, it's an amazing thing, I think, even if you don't consider yourself a supporter of hers or a royalist, like her lifetime spanned an awful lot of human development. When you think about it, like 96, 97 years, and from the day that she was born to the day that she died, so much has happened in the world, and so much that she was involved in little ways that you might not have realised. I was listening to a thing last night now, and she had sent, when they were sending messages on some of the first spaceships that went up, went out into outer space, she had notes written that was put into them at the time. I also
send help.
Well, if you had her kind of cash, she didn't need too much help. And then I didn't realise as well, for people that like sport, she was the one that presented the famous 66 English World Cup team with the cup at the time that she was. So there's lots of things that happened along the way. So I do find the documentaries really interesting.
There's going to be no end of it. And of course, all the networks they have their packages ready. Like they had the full suite.
But did you see the BBC? That's what I really wanted to talk about.
Like they even enhanced, they've even like her coronation or different other things. They've even gone to the bother of already having had all that video enhanced.
Digitally restored and stuff.
Digitally restored. That's exactly it. And the programs were already made. And I think
but nothing was on the BBC. Yeah. That's what I couldn't understand. Well, last night, if anybody was watching the BBC, from, as you say, about 6:20 past 6, the 2 channels went to the BBC News. So BBC 1, BBC 2, all their programming was just gone. And I kept flicking back and forth, even though I was watching other stuff myself that I recorded. And it was the exact same thing. And all they did was from the news studio, they had the presenter there, and he had different people coming in and out, and they were talking about
It's too early for they've got 11 days to fill now.
So, I know, but the poor man used every word and every adjective he could think of. I mean, that guy needs to go. He needs a 6 month holiday after it. Channel 4.
Having to go into that,
Channel 4 went straight into...
But can I tell you why I was going to say that? You see, because Channel 4 do not have the newsroom resources.
I know, but
so they had to have extra packaging.
But Jon Snow, as you say, very famous presenter. Everybody's kind of knows his voice when you hear it. He does their news and that kind of thing for the Channel 4. He had a 2-hour documentary ready to go in which he totally spoke about her in the past tense.
Yeah.
So, they had sat down and went, we've got to put this... Every time he spoke about her, is how she had been, what her legacy would be, what her thoughts were.
But they have them pre-prepared already.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I couldn't believe the BBC didn't have a load of stuff pre-prepared.
Cliff Richard, all his stuff would be prepared. It sounds an awful thing to say.
No, but it's practically, it is,
But that's what I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe that the BBC had not...
I think they chose not to show it yet. I think they went full on rolling news.
Because they were still there. In fairness to this poor guy, this was at 20 past 6 that he started. The last time I flicked over was about 10 o'clock and the poor man was still there. I was like, pet, did anybody get him a cup of tea?
Too, the BBC,
it was insane.
I think they panicked me because they put the black banner up too early. That was in mid-afternoon. A couple of their journalists tweeted the announcement around 3
that they'd been called to the...
And obviously then people were turning up in black suits and then one person changed his tie. you know, they were kind of like, they knew, but they knew they couldn't say anything. But so you're just going to be binging on documentaries?
Well, it's
about
10
Queen
days
Elizabeth.
now until the funeral. So yeah, I'll be binging on quite a bit of documentaries and stuff. And the funeral is going to be the first state funeral since Winston Churchill in the 60s, which obviously I was not born then. So, and even his was apparently a state funeral but muted. So I love a good shindig. So I really want to see what happens with it. How do they? Well, the coronation won't be for a year.
Really?
Yes, it takes. Now they haven't set the date for it, but hers took a year, and apparently you go into a period of mourning. So it may not be until early in the new year. You know, it might be a little bit early.
And do you understand them cancelling football matches and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I suppose the thing about it is that it's not something that we've probably had here. Well, I don't have any memory of it, but I'm sure if we'd lost somewhere when the likes of it pops into your head, but you think somebody like De Valera or something like that, when he passed away,
back that far to get like equivalent, don't you?
I mean, when you think about it, that's what you have to kind of think about. Like, this is an iconic. I think the thing about the Queen is like her or not like her, whether you feel that it's a waste of money, even for British people, if they feel it's a waste of money or they are for, it's still it's still something that has had a major impact on their lives, to the point like that now they have to sit down, they're going to have to change all the money. All their passports.
Oh, really?
Which are all the money will have to be changed now into his face. All their passports have to be changed.
What about the knighthood she gave people? Are they gone?
No, the honours go through, but all the practical time,
postage stamp.
Everybody's passports will have to change. Everybody now you don't. It'll be when you change your passport, you'll suddenly get it with Charles, because it's her signature, isn't it? I think that's on it.
Clue.
The money is all her. That'll all change over the next year or two, whatever. I don't know how long it takes them, but that'll all change over now to Charles.
I think we found Fionnuala's specialised subject.
I actually really think we should move
stamps.
on.
Oh, no, 100%. But it's really interesting. Like, to me, I'm just like, it's as just a whole.
It's something in that. It'll never happen again like it's happened now, because there'll never be someone that has that longevity.
Yeah.
There's very few people alive now in Britain that will ever have a queen again because of the way it passes down the lineage and stuff, which in and of itself is a bit old-fashioned perhaps.
Yeah.
So, I can understand it's incredibly huge and historic, but I just wonder, this is the thing, and as I say, maybe it's not the time to ask the question, but I just wonder, is the TV coverage... Have they got the mood of the nation right? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Mike?
it does. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, because again, most of my news intake last night, it was late evening, was on Twitter. I didn't go near the TV. I'd seen in the afternoon, then I was away, then I was back in the house, and yeah, the mood. I think there's a disconnect between maybe what ordinary people are thinking.
Do you think there is?
I think there is. Yeah, just again, I didn't spend a lot of time, but going down through
the chair, please.
Well,
that's what I like.
Say is,
that's what I like. You got to
don't-
start showing your authority.
I don't disagree that people are split on the idea of the royal family.
They are, yeah.
That's 100%.
Like, the numbers weren't massive outside Buckingham Palace last night.
This is what I'm saying. Like, when she had her whatever it was, Golden Jubilee or whatever the Jubilee thing, there was more people in that whatever that square is called that they all hang out in than there was on VE Day. Like, that is like, no matter what anybody says. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It just answers the. You know what I mean? That's up to people.
So there's still popularity there.
Like, that's
there
what I
is
mean.
a
But
massive
I
concert, wasn't there?
But it was all throughout the whole thing.
Right.
But I
Like,
think
it was
it's
with her last
generational.
one and
Like-
for this one. I don't think so. You see all
And
the
I think-
kids out. You see everybody out. The Queen is different to the others. I think the thing that's going to happen with this now is, will the royal family last is the question now. In her lifetime, it was never going to go.
You see,
but
think
now
a lot
it's a
of
whole
people,
big thing.
a lot of people have been
And it'll be
holding
a whole-
back. I think there's a lot of countries in the Commonwealth that want to move on.
But
and
they've
will move on.
had a very strong fondness for her sense of honour, duty, and
But
that
I
kind of thing.
think
That kind of
even
kept
though
them
maybe
attached.
that pomp and ceremony
I think
perhaps
that'll
was
be gone
becoming
now.
a little bit different. I also feel that maybe some people might have been keeping their powder dry on say, for instance, other controversies and what have you surrounding the family, and I just think that
that'll change.
I can see the deconstruction of the monarchy in its current form really quite quickly.
100%.
I could see it happening. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that quickly, but I can see it happening
But
because
she
even
held
from
a lot
within,
of respect throughout the play. I mean, all the world leaders that came out. Justin Trudeau, the Canadian leader,
he was
look
beside
it up.
himself.
He was practically crying. I was like,
well, he's known her since he was a child, apparently.
So, apparently she was very well thought of, and I mean, even when she came here to Ireland, in fairness, when she came to Ireland and she was kind of down in Cork and up in Guinness's, it was amazing to me the amount of people that were going, bless, she's very good, isn't she? She's great, and she just had that kind of a give off that sort of.
I think for the majority of Irish people, a lot of people listening to this program. Take a big interest in the royal family. They're not royalists, but particularly the Princess Diana situation, they do like it. Do you know what I mean? And what happens is sometimes those who are very, very, very against it, you hear that a lot and you think that's representative. I think the majority of people, I don't get it myself because I don't like class systems. I don't like monarchy. I don't like any of that. So, and I don't like lower, middle,
and you don't go to the hairdresser and flick through hello.
I don't.
That's what it's about.
I do. But they say to me, "What are you doing here?"
That's when you flick through.
I've been banned because
you're just there to flick through hello.
I just turned up to read hello.
You just get the free magazine and leave.
But I think a lot of people here will watch with interest.
I think so. I think it is. It's going to be one of those things that a lot of people will have on.
I have a borrowing order from a number of hairdressers.
Stealing their hello.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I think we don't look at it. I don't look at them as being the rulers or anything like that. I know the people see that, so that's not the way. I just kind of picture them as no more than you do our own president. Do you know what I mean?
I also recognise that she's the commander-in-chief, and a lot of things have happened on this island, and some people feel it very, very personally.
100%.
Absolutely,
I respect that. And I understand
time.
that. But I think for the majority of people, and I think particularly further south you go, they will watch on, at least with interest, if not care.
Yeah.
You know?
And I just think she, as you say, it's
it
one
is a
of
big
those
news story,
kind of
you're
things.
absolutely right,
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to be one of those things. Is
they
no more
exhausted very quickly, as was proven on the BBC. They exhausted how kind of long you can talk about it.
Oh, they had a huge conversation about her her hats and her shoes and her handbag.
Oh, I missed it.
And her dresses, and I was like, seriously,
well, speaking of hats,
you did not plan this.
Speaking of hats, apparently, the star, the personal, the thing that impressed most of all in Blackbird.
Oh, I knew there was a segue.
Were hats.
Oh, the hats were amazing.
So we're going to talk about that,
hats.
And we might dip back into that conversation, of course, as the morning wears on after this break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Deep breaths, everyone. There's still time to save the day. With great value home cover from Super Value Insurance. You'll get 15% off online and shopping vouchers with every policy. That's a great deal for the cover you need anyway. All it takes is one big click or call. Just visit supervalue.ie/insurance or call 0818 010101 and our team will save the day without the drama. Terms and conditions apply. Vouchers include 2 €10 off, €40 spend. Home contents only. Policies excluded. This home insurance is underwritten by AXA Insurance DAC. SuperValue Financial Services DAC, trading in SuperValue Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale extended until Sunday.
Thinking of North America? Aer Lingus from Donegal Airport is the way to go. With great fares and onwards connections across North America, you'll fly via Dublin, where you'll pre-clear customs, saving you time on arrival. See airlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Book a private VIP screening at Century Cinemas. Perfect for celebrating birthdays and special occasions. Featuring a private VIP screening with luxury reclining seating, delicious popcorn and a brilliant choice of movies. For further information on our VIP packages, call Century Complex Letterkenny on 07491 21976 or visit centurycinemas.ie.
Your Lancome free gift is waiting for you at McElhenney's. Simply buy 2 Lancome products and receive the ultimate beauty routine. Your gift includes a full-size Vivasil cleanser, a 7-piece travel set, plus choose from our Absolute or Hydrozen skincare collection to complete your gift. Exclusively in-store and online at McElhenney's.com until September 17th while stocks last.
Vamos, amigos. We're off to sunny Centra for their famous Spanish wine sale. Hola, kitchen parties. Adios, spending loads. All of your favourites from Rioja to Albarino and Tempranillo to Garnacha are on offer now in your local Centra. For a great night in, choose Centra and their Spanish wine sale. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Callahan's Gala and Go Birch, your one-stop family shop. With over 50 years of experience, we pride ourselves in providing a top-class customer experience. Keen fuel prices, convenience shop, hot deli, hardware,
and Frosty's famous special recipe ice cream.
Family run, helpful staff, and service with a smile.
Sure, it's all go at Callahan's.
The Euro Millions Mega Draw is back. And it's really big. It's actually massive. This Friday, September 9th, the Euro Millions jackpot will be a guaranteed 130 million euros. It's just too big to miss. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Okay, so that's entertainment with Michael and Fanula. Right, okay. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and text to that number 07491 25,000. Before we go back to our guests, we are going to be joined, in fact we are joined now by Ken Sweeney, showbiz editor with the Irish Sun. He was at Garth Brooks' press conference yesterday. Joins us now. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm all right. Have you bounced back from the spectacular that is a press conference featuring Garth Brooks?
Well, you know, even before Garth had turned up, he gave us all free T-shirts. There was an announcement made that there were free T-shirts for all the media, and that got a cheer. And the guy hadn't even turned up at that stage, and he's already kind of won us over. So listen, guy comes into the room, you know, Garth, you know, anyone else would have a load of flunkies, press people saying, you know, all over him. Garth, none of that. Comes into the room, straight over. It's like, I mean, it was like a one-man show. And we got a one-man show for an hour. And I'm glad I'm talking to someone on Highland Radio, because there was a lot of people from Ulster there, and there's a lot of tickets going north, you know, in the northern part of the country, in Donegal and in the north. And he's got a huge, he's got a huge audience up there. And a lot of the people who turned up were asking him, they had different stories. One reporter turned up, her parents had met at a Garth gig in 1997, and she was born the following March. What can I say?
Yeah, you know? Do your maths. They had a good night. Let's put it like that. And there's something infectious, engaging about him. You know yourself, Ken. He did the ring arounds of the stations earlier this year, I think. And he's very personable. He makes sure he knows your name. He speaks to you like you've known him for ages. In that regard, he is a class act. And it's not unlike our own Daniel O'Donnell and other really, really successful artists. I think the audience have to make a connection. And any young artists that are looking to break through, I think they can look at people like Garth and Daniel and others and say, you know what, maybe that's just the little je ne sais quoi that gets you over the line.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Daniel O'Donnell, because I've had a few dealings with Daniel over the years, and he's exactly the same. I dealt with him when he was doing Strictly, Daniel O'Donnell, and I really liked him. And
any free T-shirts?
No free T-shirt from Daniel Magella, but my God, they popped into Cleary's, the famous department store in Dublin, before it closed down a few years ago, and like the place just went bananas for them. They love him. But yes, Daniel and Garth, they both have that personable thing where they really know how to work the room. And I really liked, the previous press conference Garth had done. A reporter would ask a question and say that they'd been to his concert 10, 15 years before with their parents, and Garth would inquire. First thing he'd say is your mum / dad still with us? Yeah. Are they coming? Just absolutely brilliant. And he was doing lots of that yesterday. And I mean, something, being from a popular paper, I'm the showbiz editor with the Sun, I wanted to ask him about 2014 and how he felt about it. Did he retain any bitterness? And it was something that I used the word adversaries, because of course it did get to that. There was the head of Dublin City Council who wouldn't give him the permission for 5 gigs, and then he wouldn't do, Garth didn't want to leave anyone out. He pulled the gigs, and he came back later on in the press conference, and Gareth leaned in. He kind of rattled my notebook, and he said, "You said earlier about adversaries. Well, I just want to say," and he kind of added to the point. So Percival remembered who'd asked the question.
Brilliant stuff.
And also, I think it's just a huge thing, Gareth in Ireland.
I think too, another thing, Ken, people tried to make a bit of a hoo-ha about him not having an opening act. That was batted away by our listeners anyway. They're saying, look, that doesn't matter. Stop being negative. There's a positivity coming with this guy, with these concerts. And even if we try and look for a little bit of negativity, it doesn't seem to be there. And that's welcome, particularly in this day and age, especially as 1 in 11 or 12 of us are going along to see him. So I feel I'm going tomorrow night. I feel like I'm going to be getting into a hotel bed that hasn't been made. Someone else has already been in it. So I'm going to try and avoid any pictures or anything. I want it to be fresh for me tomorrow. But people going tonight, gates open at 5. It's all very well organised in terms of where you're going and all that type of stuff. The show starts at 7:30, and of course, get in on time. You don't want to miss the start of this. It's going to be big.
They've said no early queuing at this. Gates open at 5 o'clock. I just think it's like, remember that Garth Brooks has gone around America. He's playing stadiums. It's so well organized and so well attuned. Everyone's going to have a good time. I was just laughing there because, Aaron Rod Aaron have put on a lot of trains at midnight. That famous song about took the train at midnight, whoever that is. That's some American power band from the 80s or 90s. I mean, literally, that's what it means. Aaron Rod Aaron have put on midnight trains going to Cork and all sorts of places. Going to be a lot of fun on the streets. But he was quite
Ken, did you have to you have to mention trains to people in Donegal, Ken? There was aeroplanes, buses, whatever. No one's getting on a midnight. You're getting on a midnight train to nowhere.
I've got a book here about trains. I know what they did. What's the book? The last train, the train leaving departed or whatever. And I know what was done to train. And I'm a Sweeney, so listen, I never turned down a call from Donegal, but I think what was done to trains in Ulster was more to do with partition and stuff like that. It's one of my pet subjects. But what I will say is, I think there'll be radio stations in Dublin. I think one of them is actually playing Garth hits after the show. They're playing them as people go home on the road. So kind of take the thing in. He was saying, which struck me, he said he wants to make it a great show for the punters in the arena, but he also wants to make it a great show for the people outside Croke Park. And there was a lot of bridge building going on. At the earlier conference during the week, Peter McKenna, the head of the stadium director, was saying that he thanked Dublin City Council, Owen Keegan, the head, and for making this thing possible. So, I mean, as a reporter, I'm kind of scratching my head because all the things that they said couldn't happen in 2014, 5 concerts, has happened this year, and yet everyone's kind of cool with it. So there's some sort of miracle.
And it talks that positivity, no matter what people try and detract, it's going out. So he starts at 7:30. The show's about 4 hours, I think. It's being videoed over the course of the 5 nights for a special. The stage has been set up particularly for Croke Park. There is definitely something to this for him. At the end of something, a closure. It's his last stadium gigs, I think. There's a significance here that we know he's going to be putting in way more than 100% on this.
Yeah, absolutely. He's talking about the fact that Ireland has always had a special relationship. He's had a special relationship with Ireland. The records took off here. I revealed in the Irish Sun this week, reminded people that Ian Dempsey gave away a live cow in the early 90s when he was launching Garth. I think there was a problem. I'm sure you guys were doing it. Country music, it was a problem getting it on pop radio in Ireland. So he had a bit of a struggle. I think Garth's management and his record company in Ireland, they kind of got involved with the GAA. There's a great documentary on Virgin Media next week called Coming Home. I'm in it, talking about Garth, and the record company found they were selling a lot of tapes, a lot of cassettes of Garth Brooks in Ireland, and they realised that it was guys in tractors it was called the Tractor Factor. They were buying Garth cassettes on cassette. It was called the Tractor Factor. So he ties into this GAA thing. I write a lot about Dancing with the Stars for a living. I'm there every week, and Garth connects up to the same Middle Ireland type thing. And there's something else, there's something extra there. So what came through the door yesterday was a much slimmer man straight away, but also just a homely incredibly good manners, incredibly warm, and you're getting that. And there's a connection to the fans. I read an interview of Billy Connolly a few years ago, and he said, what's happened is I found my fans, and my fans found me. And he's been playing. Billy Connolly's been on the road ever since, and it's been like that for Gareth.
Brilliant. Ken, listen, I could chat to you all day. Thanks for your time. You're going which night, or all nights or no nights?
I'm going tonight. Yeah, we're
Tonight,
putting
all right.
on my wax jacket. I hope Gareth says even if
There's no rain. I've scrutinised the weather forecast. There's no rain for the concert.
That's good news. Well, listen, I appreciate that from you. I would say to you, you could be a luckier man than me going the second night, because Gareth admitted yesterday, jaws were dropping, that the first night could be ropey, that he didn't know how it would go, but he thought by the second and the third night the thing would be better. So you might.
I'll get him in the swing of things.
Yeah, he might be getting in the swing of things, the sound, the way it goes. I mean, it might just be more relaxed, but there's an awful lot, there's an awful lot depending on tonight and these 5 gigs. And, the reason that these gigs are happening is it's going to bring a huge amount of money into the capital from lots of great people from Donegal coming down by steam train or by boat, or not because by train, but by cars, they'll be hitching, they'll be going all sorts of ways. Everyone will be happy.
Some of them will probably ride in on Ian Dempsey's cow. Who's to say? Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
All right, take care of
Thanks very
yourself.
much.
Bye-bye.
Best of
Good
luck.
to have you on the show. I really appreciate it. Okay, Fionnuala, you're going tomorrow night as well.
Yes, absolutely. What started off as a huge crowd is now down to myself and Ursula.
See, this is why people don't understand why there's so many tickets floating around. There's 410,000 tickets. About 5% are going to be people that you booked tickets for that now have let you down. And 5% of 400,000 is huge. So
I know Luke Combs is coming in September, and I'm like, no, not buying anybody
book them
tickets.
yourself. I think
Just
an awful lot of people
one
did
for
that.
me.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it's you and Ursula. Well, sure, you'll have a good time.
Oh God, it's going to be great. I saw him the last time he came, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I'm hoping that he doesn't have the support, because I'm hoping his missus is going to be with them.
Oh, she is here.
I love
She is
Tricia
here because
Yearwood.
this is their.
Oh no,
honeymoon.
but I meant on stage.
Oh no,
and
he's already kind of dropped that.
I love Tricia
He's
Yearwood.
conscious that some fans will go to all 5 concerts, and that he's going to try and mix it up a bit over the 5 nights. That concerns me a little bit. I just hope that people who go hear the songs that they've went for. We can all go for a wee when, here's the song off my new album. You can just see the aisles fill up.
As everybody runs. I don't know. I'm just really looking. I really enjoyed his last concert, and when he was there, you remember he used to be. That was the time when he was young.
Have you
and
a Stetson?
He used to swing out. No, I don't go in for any of that kind of crap.
Really?
I don't think, but I don't see his music as necessarily just being country, anyways.
It's dressing. It's like
I think it's one of those things that just goes across the thing. Like Luke Combs is the new kind of Garth Brooks now. You know what I mean?
I'm going to wear a checked shirt.
Oh, awesome! I hope to bump into you.
We got you. I'm sure you will, because Ireland is an incredibly small space. And Katie's down tomorrow night as well, I believe.
Yes,
as
I
well.
think she's going as well. Yes,
okay.
There's a few of us
Half
going.
of Donegal's going. We got you watching documentaries. I don't suppose we can get you to a Garth Brooks concert, Michael.
No.
Okay, Blackbird, because we're all waiting to hear what you thought of Blackbird. That's going to come up after these.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
This week at Centra, choose from our amazing mega deals. Like Centra Fresh Hours Chicken Breast Fillet 1454 gram, only €5. Weetabix 24 pack 430 gram, now €2. And until Sunday, Torres Vinasol, now only €8. Smart choices, choose Centra. Centra, live every day. Enjoy Cold sensibly.
For all your health and beauty needs, you can always rely on McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. If you need a prescription, just call or order online at mcgees.ie and it will be ready for you in advance before you arrive. For beauty and skin care, there's all the big names at great prices in store and online. And for your photo printing needs, simply download the McGee's Photo Prints app or click on the website link. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, for all your health and beauty needs, and so much more. Call 91-21409 or visit mcgees.ie.
There are silent conversations that happen on our roads every day between drivers and older pedestrians like me. When we catch each other's eye to say, "Do you see me?" or "I'm crossing." But when people don't look out for each other, those connections can be missed. And so can I.
Too many older pedestrians are being killed on our roads. When we look out for each other,
we keep each other safe.
Please look out for older pedestrians. From the Road Safety Authority. Visit rsa.ie.
Farmers could be paid to cut suckler numbers. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Proposals to slash suckler numbers on the table. We reveal the new rules around slurry spreading. Don't miss our sheep breeding sales special. Fears mount over fertiliser supplies. And find out how much more your weanlings are worth.
Plus, in Irish Country Living, don't miss our Back to College special with 6 pages of practical tips from accommodation to money management. Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal, on sale now.
The Donegal Charolais Sheep Breeders Premier Show and Sale will take place in Rafo Livestock Mart this Friday 9th of September. The show is at 6 with the sale at 7:30, with a large selection of shearling ram lambs and females on offer.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Okie doke, we are back and we are still in the company of Michael and Fionnuala. Michael, I'm going to let you start on Blackbird.
Wonderful.
Yep.
What can I say? I would say to people, run, don't walk to the cinema. You need to see this film. Every expectation I had. In fact, I would say to you, Greg, have you got plans for the weekend? Cancel those plans and go to the cinema twice. This is a really bad, really inept, wonderfully entertaining 2 hours. Not even 2 hours. It's quite. It's short. Yeah. And it delivers everything you would want. The lack of story. The lack of story.
Why am I going to watch it?
Because it's entertaining to see something that's bad. Anyone who's a fan, I've often mentioned this Mystery Science Theatre 3000. There's huge entertainment value from bad films. When myself and Fionnuala saw this last week, we were chatting to two ladies immediately afterwards for about 5-10 minutes. And they didn't like the movie, but they enjoyed it. They were able to chat about it. We can chat about this film. You can chat about the scene where he's walking through the hotel and the whole thing takes place in a hotel. It's like the least globe-trotting spy movie ever.
Some of it's in his house, though, isn't it?
Some of it's in his house. Flashbacks are to his house and stuff like that. The setup, such as there is setup in this. But as he walks through the hotel and members of staff approach him, and he takes off one hat, and they immediately hand him the next hat. That's going from the morning hat to the afternoon hat, and he puts it on in a suave, sophisticated way, and then walks. I've been trying to get my two housemates to get on board because I have like 6 or 7 baseball caps, and I reckon that when I come down the stairs in the morning or mid-morning, they should be meeting me with a changeover hat, but they can't.
This is literally a skit waiting to be recorded.
It is, totally. So what is this film? This is a film about a guy who's one of those reluctant heroes. You know how John Wick or Nobody, the hero has a past and he doesn't want to get sucked into the world of whatever.
He's free, man. I'm out.
He's out. This is trying to be like that.
He did that one last job.
He did that one last job. But this hero is so disinterested. Basically, he runs a hotel. Bad guys show up. They've got a chip, and the chip has stuff on it that's going to kill millions of people. And his entourage are repeatedly saying to him, Victor, we got to do something about this. And he always says, it'll be all right. He does, doesn't he? He's like, nah, let them do their thing. He does that for like...
got accent.
He doesn't care.
Which is his accent thing.
I know.
And
me dear Irish mother.
And then one of his entourage... Now, his entourage are all meant to be ex-espionage people, right? From years ago, from like 10 plus years ago. And they're meant to be the best of the best. But immediately one of them goes into a room, gets caught and gets killed. Like, you're like, they're the worst. And the other thing I loved about this film is there's a woman. And she's not just a woman. She's the woman from his past.
And is she lit in certain ways, no?
Well, I don't know about that, but she's certainly meant to be like from those days, those espionage days. And she was also one of the best. She was one of the best back in the day. Now, she's in her late 20s at most, maybe 30, 32.
She doesn't need to be lit.
Back in the day, she was a 12-year-old. She was in school.
Start them young in the world of espionage.
When apparently she was the best of the best.
If you're talking about the fact that the actress is too young for the part, come on.
Well, that comes
there
on, yeah.
There must be worse
Oh yeah, I mean that happens in loads of things. Like anyone who saw Ghost Rider will remember that Nicolas Cage and Eva Mendes were meant to be in school together, and there's like 20 because the flashbacks they're two high schools.
He was the principal, and she was in baby infants.
They were in high school together, and then when you see them grown up, they're like, wait a second, he's 24 years older than her. But it's a bit like that. But yeah, this is a movie that has no setup, no story, no structure. The actresses, I would say, now we disagree on that, but I think the actresses are all very beautiful women who can't act. None of them can act. The lead actress has some credits starting off as a US.
Can Michael Flatley act?
Better than you'd think.
Better than you think, but he won't he probably won't win an Oscar for
Right,
this.
okay, so the two women that you were chatting to, did they enjoy it?
They enjoyed chatting about it afterwards, I think.
That's
and I
a no
think,
then.
So
No, but you
they
do.
They said they
the
talked
thing
about his ego.
is you do
They were like some ego. on
enjoy
him.
it, but you're not necessarily enjoying it for the movie. Like you're enjoying it because it has every single thing in it that you expect a Michael Flatley movie to be in it. I mean, in fairness, I did leave it with a mild eye strain from rolling my eyes and saying, Jesus wept so many times.
There were so many
during
times
it.
that I
So
looked.
That's why you enjoyed it. Do you
I
know what I mean?
looked more than once. Do you remember? I kept looking at you in the dark. I was like, am I
All
seeing
I could
this?
see is the white of her eyes because the pupils were in the back of her head.
I was like,
couldn't
Ro, like the women are. I mean, now I'd say all the women are dancers. You know the way you can see when they sit.
Yes.
The way they stand. It's kind of
And their toes go out a little bit.
They've definitely they're all like that's where he met these people was in some kind of through the dancing rather than through the acting.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And in fairness to them, they have nothing in the script to do.
No.
Only
Nobody
sit
has.
there and be attractive and
There's a
one or
point
two of them
where
have to take their clothes off at
all
different
the
points.
lads, the lads are all. Remember, I said to you, I remember saying
Yeah.
this during the thing, like you have him and Patrick Berg and all these guys who are of an age, and they're surrounded by these women, and I was like, this is a group of guys hanging out with their granddaughters, and it's a really family moment there. It's like,
I don't think that's the angle they're going for. Is the card game full of tension and?
It's full of tension if you've ever seen like a Frank Sinatra movie.
Right.
You know the way, like,
but he grew up watching those films.
did.
Now,
You
you
can
see, I
totally
have a
tell.
problem here because I watched him on the Late Late Show, and besides the
Oh, I saw
Arabic
you,
Gara
yeah.
and my Irish mother and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, she says to the Late audience, she says, you know, I'll tell you about the Irish mother, and then he went, actually, maybe a lot of you have the Irish mother, and it was all very, but. That being said, there was actually quite a strong message in what he had to say in the Late Late Show, right? Because he was saying, and he was saying correctly, that people always tell you can't do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make this film.
Yeah.
And there's no bones about it. He doesn't care if people like it or not.
fair enough.
He wanted to make this film, and he made the film, and people told him Riverdance would never work, and people told him Lord of the Dance would never work. And he related this to children. Don't be afraid of criticism. He said, I'm not afraid of criticism. And then he took a flute out. I don't know. But anyway.
that's not a euphemism.
Behave.
That joke was already done on the Late Late Show.
Ryan was there.
And I don't watch the Late Late Show ever, but I tuned in to see Michael Flatley because it was for the same reasons you guys went to the cinema.
Yeah.
But I came away from that, and I said it
Realising that
actually on the
any
Friday
millionaire
beforehand.
can
make their dreams come true.
But yes, but he worked very hard. He did. He came from a background where his parents went over, worked in construction. He worked in construction, but he had a dream as a young person, and he made that dream a reality. Okay.
Oh, look, you have to admire him in the sense of, like we were
So
saying.
that's why I like the fact that your review is kind of, it was terrible, but we enjoyed it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But
I would say yes. But I would say there's an element of ego. I don't take away from any of that. But I think I wish if he had done all that he did and made this film,
But you
brought in a
can't be
writer,
you
brought in
cannot.
a writer,
No, you
and just
cannot.
write it.
You cannot decide you want to make a film, finance the film, star in the film, produce the film, cast the film,
Direct
and then have a sense of modesty.
No.
Do you know what I'm on about? Like,
I'm not.
it's just, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
Look, to be honest, it's definitely worth going to see it.
Yeah.
I definitely think people should
I
go
agree
and see
completely,
it.
yeah.
I mean, we were just looking
You'll
at it
chat
there. It
about it
cost
for
about
days.
$3.5 million to make, which is a very small
Really?
budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
well.
Doesn't seem to, they've made almost $2 million now
Back.
already.
Does he dance and do blades
No.
fly out of his
No.
shoes? Why would someone mislead me like that?
No.
Because I think after we went, we were looking down through some of the reviews because some of them are
Hilarious.
so smartly
Hilarious.
written.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, this guy's.
Some
But do you
brilliant
not get
reviews.
the impression that some of those reviews were written before they'd even
Oh,
seen it?
100%. No, there was
You know, elements of it.
Two-thirds
Funny
of them.
bits, the funny
Two-thirds.
bits.
Actually, the
Yeah.
only ones that you could after, 'cause as I said, we were sitting in the car afterwards because we couldn't stop talking about it. We were
about
flicking through the reviews and reading the funny
windows steamed up.
and they're reading through the different reviews and see, and the way people phrase things that we had seen in it, which is very
You'll
funny.
know who's seen the movie by if they reference the hat changeover, if they reference the scene where the young beautiful dancer offers herself to him in the room, and then in a very cool way he just kind of puts a dressing gown on her and sends her on her way.
Don't be ruining the movie.
You're like, oh, he's so cool.
So how do you mark this out of 10?
1. But I'm loving it 1.
Oh yeah, no, you'd have to. The thing about it is that like it's just everything is.
We're in
it
her 5 or 6 out of 10 fun zone here, I think.
Fairness, but that's exactly where it needs to
Could
land.
you understand the plot?
That was
better than Mikey
even
Flat.
for me. Even for me, that was not difficult. But what was amazing about it was like you're just the whole way through it, and you know what I mean. Like halfway through it, he's out on like this, tropical island, and suddenly, surprise, surprise, the Irish priest shows up. You're like, just it hits every single thing you needed to hit. And then it's set up for the sequel. And apparently he's in pre-production for the sequel. Yeah. And you're just like going, I mean, I admire his neck, shall we say.
And you will laugh. Like, you'll laugh.
Oh, yeah,
You'll laugh.
There's definitely, not necessarily where they thought you were going to.
No.
And he is actually not that bad. As we were saying afterwards, if he showed up as a person that was running a bar in a James Bond movie,
had 2
you
scenes.
would totally believe.
You'd be okay with it.
Like, he's actually not that bad. There's a couple of guys in it who have been acting for a long
Can
time.
you imagine how much money he spent on acting classes, though?
Well,
Stay right where you are. Don't go anywhere. I want to say, and you ponder your mark out of 10. I want to say good morning to Victoria Boyd, who's farm family rep with the Donegal IFA. Hiya, Victoria.
Morning, Greg.
I don't suppose you've seen Michael Flatley's Blackbird yet, have you?
No, unfortunately not. That'll be one for the diary.
Is it on the list?
It is on the list, I would think so.
Right, let's talk and walk. This is an event taking place on Sunday, the 11th of September at 3 p.m. It's at Ards Forest Park, which is easily accessible. If you go through Creasler on the road to Dunfanaghy, all the signposts are there, all the entrances are there, and I'm sure it'll be signposted. And what a place to have a walk. Talk to me about, I presume it's open to everyone, but a particular focus on farm families, Victoria.
Yes, it is open to everyone, Greg, because although the Irish Farmers Association are one of the main stakeholders in this, it's also Culture, Mental Health Ireland, Sea Change, DLDC are also involved. So it really is open for everyone. And like you said, we're meeting in Ards Forest Park. We're meeting at the car park at 3 p.m. And thanks to Bill Vaughan in Mental Health Ireland, he's been just fantastic. He has organised nature walks, which will explore biodiversity in the area. And the main aim of the walk is to help people understand the habitats around them, and to enhance any future walks that they might have in nature. So it's also, it's a time where members in farming communities, but also in our wider Donegal community, can come together and just have a bit of social interaction and make the most of this good weather that we're
Yeah, and maybe to make a bit of time for themselves to do something like that. Because, when you sort of live and work in the same space, which a lot of farm families do, it maybe can be hard to manage your time, even if this were just an opportunity to put down the tools for a couple of hours and go out and enjoy the great outdoors in a different context. It'd be worth it for that reason alone, I'm sure.
Definitely. And like I said, there's a social element in a way, because farming, particularly over the last few years, has become very lonely. COVID has affected the farming industry, and agricultural industry in so many ways. But one of the main things is the exclusion from some bit of social activity. And I don't know what it's like in everyone else's house, but in our farmhouse, Sunday is a family day. And we get a bit more time with Daddy on Sunday. So it's great, to day to sort of bring the kids as well. Hopefully we'll have great weather and there'll be some refreshments, and it's a completely free event. So, young and old are really encouraged to attend if
Load
they
up
can.
the car with the family of all generations, because there's walks for all different types of people, and I think it's going to be a lovely calming, because it's a beautiful setting anyway, and I think it's going to be a lovely event for everyone. So it's an easy family-friendly walk suitable for all ages, including buggies. Refreshments will be served after the walk. Gather at the car park at Ards Forest Park at 3 p.m. And whether you're a farm family or not, I think a lot of people will take part in that and enjoy. Victoria, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very
Enjoy
much.
it. Take care of yourself. Okay, we'll be back with more after the break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Enjoy crazy prices with the power of Tesco Club Card, like Fairy Non-Bio Pods 45 washes was €16, now €10. Plus selected Kit Kat Chunky and Toffee Crisp bars was €1.60, now 75 cents each. It can't stop the chocolate stains though. Nothing's that powerful. Spend less on selected products with your Tesco Club Card or app. The power to lower prices. Tesco. 25 years of little helps. Products subject to availability. Excludes Express stores.
Patterson's The Hall Lifford, one of Ireland's largest kitchen and interior showrooms. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Kitchens, beds, mattresses and furniture, all under one roof. 50% off our X-Display kitchens. Everything you need to make a house a home. At Patterson's Kitchens and Interiors, The Hall Lifford.
You might think you know the wild Atlantic way, but maybe it's time for a closer look. Stand tall at the towering edge of the world and discover adventure, rugged and wild. Leap from the mainland with an escape to Valentia Island, or take a bite out of sparkling city life in Galway before finding sanctuary among the wilderness of Wildneffin Ballycoy National Park. The Wild Atlantic Way, yours to explore. Keep discovering at discoverireland.ie.
Finding more spam in your emails recently? You're not alone. Virtual scamming using email is on the rise. Migrate 365 are the experts in keeping professional email free from spam. Book your free IT review to see how we can save you time and money. Email hello@migrate365.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering Programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Which mouse is it here? Okay. And we're just wrapping things up now with Michael and Fionnuala. So what are you giving Blackbird out of 10 then, please, Fionnuala?
Oh, I'm definitely giving it a 5 or 6.
Wow.
You will go
Told
and
you
you
it was in
will.
that fun zone.
No, it is because it's do you know what, it's sort of, although it's not quite as good, but it's the worst. It's the second best worst movie I've ever seen. First one being Tropic Thunder. Do you remember Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
The movie?
That was a very good movie.
You know, and this is
Terrible
where
movie,
his
but
name.
very enjoyable.
This is where his name brought the people in.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, Blackbird. This is a commercial success.
I
think it's on track
to
to
it. I
it.
don't know what rates a commercial success, but I would say so. I
Money?
mean, it's running well.
Yeah.
Well, it
looks to be making its
so
money
far.
back.
It's made 1.8 million. I don't know if that's enough. That's what I could just. That
But
we could
that's
find,
only
but-
the first week out. It'll make
That's
its money.
Ireland as well, presumably.
It'll make its
Yeah,
money back.
that's just when you kind of Google what it made. But look, the thing about it is that it's. You go with a crowd of friends and
Yes.
you go and see it early and then have your night out and there's your whole conversation done.
It is a
Go on a
conversation.
first date,
Yeah.
you'll definitely end up having something to talk about afterwards.
Is there an excuse?
Bring
to put
your
the
granny.
arm
Bring your granny.
Oh, great, it's great. It's got the granny okay.
It's got everything
Right.
in it. There's
You'll
nothing in it.
appreciate him pulling the robe back on the.
Absolutely,
This
yes.
is it. There's nothing in
So
it
is it
that's going to
wholesome?
be. It comes up to the line, but it doesn't
Yeah.
cross the line.
It's quite old-fashioned, I suppose, in the sense.
it's
Yeah, it is.
that
It's
kind of
wholesome.
a
and yeah.
feeling sort of a thing. You know what I mean?
It has a 1960s.
Obviously, there's a little bit of violence in it, but
Yeah.
there's nothing.
Oh, for God's sake! Look, there's one fight scene in the whole film.
Does he win?
He didn't just win. It was win in capital letters, Greg.
With
win
exclamation
in
marks.
capital letters.
It's
he's
one
the
of those ones
coolest
that
fighter.
if you don't see it, you're kind of going to be sorry you'll see it. And I'm not sure whether you'd watch it when it comes on the TV. You know, you'll be too distracted when it's on the TV and when you're having a cup of tea and you'll sort of flick the channels. You know the way. Whereas when you're in a cinema, you're going to be stuck there, sitting there watching it, and that's when you're going to get a kick out of it.
You'll get a kick out of it, yeah.
As I said, definitely get your eye rolling.
And there's about 5 moments where you will turn to the person beside you and be like,
Jesus,
am I seeing what I'm seeing?
Okay, I have to go. I'm going to see Gareth Brooks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Michael. See you next week. Fionnuala, enjoy Gareth.
Aye, absolutely. Hopefully we might bump into you there. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Exactly. John Bresson's coming up around the Northwest, live from the ATU in Letterkenny. Stay tuned for that.